It's on.
Like to call the Germantown School District Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting to order at 4:15. Roll call. Brown,
Here.
Loth,
Here.
and I am here. Item number 3, agenda revisions and approval. Take a motion.
I motion to approve the agenda minutes.
Second?
Brown with the motion, Loth with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, approval of the minutes. I'll take a motion.
Move to approve the minutes?
I'll second.
Loth with the motion, Brown with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, reports and updates. Letter A, work order report. Mr. Lord.
Thank you. Yeah, so as referenced for interest in the October meeting, there was talk about sharing work orders in between time and more of an ongoing rather than that annual report, which really I only had one opportunity at so far. But it is easy enough to generate ongoing data, which I think helps kind of show and let you guys see, or the committee see, what kind of progress is being done in work orders throughout that time period in between meetings. In this one in particular, excuse me, voice is still coming back. I have the location, description, priority level, the requested date, which is the date that it was submitted on, and the completion date of the work orders within that time frame. And in this case, that is from 10/10 until up till last week, 12/13. This is somewhat of a pilot as far as a report goes, but it gives you the opportunity to go through and see some of the things that we have done and what types of work orders we have. This does include the preventative maintenance as well. So I think we totaled somewhere around the 274 marker within that time frame. But it is a little bit off because there are some tests which the program runs on its own to check to make sure that the system is working itself. And unfortunately, I could not figure out how to eliminate that as a counted completion. In its own mind, it is somewhat of an AI, I guess. But yeah, I just want to present this and kind of keep it open for any questions or interest within it.
So I only have one question on this, other than just being amazed at how many different things are on the list. So there's a priority column on here, high, medium, low. Do we have basically, in effect, kind of service level agreements, if you will, as far as a high should be taken care of in X amount of time, a low, we can go a little farther out. Obviously, things, if there's, I think I saw somewhere around here, a clogged toilet, and it was a low, but obviously, if there's someone in the building who could run over and take care of it, and 5 minutes later, obviously, then we do that. But do we have a sense of what we strive towards with the high, mediums, and the lows?
Within the current users, yes, I think there is. I will say there is not, and this is something that I haven't had the opportunity to really work towards yet. But at this point is a perfect place to start, to be honest with you. I'm talking staffing wise. When we get a priority is essentially something, and typically if you see them, the priorities have been deliveries or things that they need immediately to an office or something of that nature versus a clogged toilet or a bursted pipe. Well, the bursted pipe, definitely a priority, but that's something that'll probably be a phone call out and then submitted as a work order, so somebody might not. And I'll be honest, a lot of the users might not be fully aware of that high, medium, low, and a lot of it does default just to medium as soon as you click on your interface. But that's something, as we broaden this, I will kind of send out and almost do a mock training so people can kind of see users and submitters can see the difference of what we see as priorities, and that will be shared within our department as priorities, medium, low. I just didn't wanna open it as a partial because then we get more questions than not on, how should I submit this, how should I complete this? But the nature of it, I would say is those emergencies or the urgents are typically a direct communication before they even make it to a work order. If that kind of answers it.
Yep, makes sense. Other questions on this topic? Okay, thank you. Item 5, letter B, project recap, past and future. Mr. Lord.
Yeah, so this is another one that I know there was some interest in. Again, a pilot. I have a different view of what I would like to see this as kind of an ongoing through our committee meetings, a nice formatted, maybe pictures included, just so you can visualize what we've done moving forward. But I wanted something a little bit less, in this case, I know I've seen some in the past that were presented in much of the same fashion, but I am working towards having something that is a little bit more clean, I guess, if I could say it that way. And the pictures, in all honesty, within the last month, if that, I had talked to the entire team, if you consider a project, take a picture and share it. We're still getting used to doing just that. But I think it's a cool way for everyone to see what we are doing when it comes to the projects, which is an indefinite, but it's something that takes a little bit more than just tightening up a handle or something of that nature. Maybe even an aesthetic difference or something that takes over entire building heat at an elementary. So I shared these 10 as these were kind of the top of the most fresh and had pictures of. The first one being, I'm sorry, do you want me to go through each one? I mean, they're fairly self, but I can.
You don't need to describe the sewer tanks.
Yeah, see, and that was one.
The visualization is good
Well,
enough.
you could probably just give us a recap.
And I'll be honest, that one was removed and then put back on just because I was
That's
running
great,
some on
though.
pictures, but.
I do have a question about that though. Is that at the high school?
Yes.
And is that for the front office?
No, this one is for the backside that comes through our exterior workshop by the large overhead by the field house. So it goes through the backside of the shop areas. It comes out through there where the holding tank is.
Okay.
So, and it's been kind of an ongoing smell
So
issue.
they just put that in because it was not convenient to run a
Yes.
gravity sewer line.
Yep.
I was not aware of this one. I was aware of one that I think is indoors at the front office. But I wasn't aware of one that was outside. So I'm looking at this wondering where it was because it I see sunlight in the photo.
Sure. Yep.
But you're aware of one in the,
So that's
the
the
front office?
original, correct? That's the original
front
lateral?
office?
Yeah.
No, that was added during the referendum. So they would have had a trench down a hallway, hundreds of feet to put a gravity sewer in, so they put in one, was my understanding, in the office. So I think there's a bathroom in the front office somewhere,
Yep. Yep.
so it would be near there, maybe in a closet someplace.
Maybe I haven't
or-
seen the access for that, but I'm
The
definitely
health
gonna check
room,
into
maybe.
that.
Off the health room area.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, there's one
Yeah.
there. So this is, there aren't any toilets in the field house. I'm kinda wondering what even feeds this.
I can't explain as-built. I honestly haven't looked at it in that much depth, but I have a arms grab of straight north, that section right where the B wing essentially starts. Anything within there, which is, there's some athletic trainer's office, 2 bathrooms, I think a shower, then our shop, the interior, the old boiler room, and then that lower level laundry area, which, to my understanding from what I had heard when this was scheduled, all of that branches into it.
Do you know, was this put in during the referendum, or this has been there a while?
I believe this was branched off of the original, This part of it is the newer part, for
Okay.
sure. It's a pretty clean, I mean, not clean, but a clean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna look into that office one.
Yeah, there's one there.
I can tell we haven't had a problem with it yet. so that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. To guess, I wanna say southwest corner, but I don't know for sure
Yeah,
of
that
the
makes
office
sense.
area.
Okay.
It's
Interesting.
been a while since, you know, that was put in.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. I appreciate it.
I had a question on the county line rock that was installed due to the muddy, icy area kind of off the playground.
Yes.
Have we received any concerns from anybody, whether it be staff, parents, whatnot, for how close it is to the playground? Has there been any sort of any issues, any sort of wanderers to
Sure.
see what those fun rocks might be or anything
Sure.
like that?
And we had talked with that, with Andy a little bit, obviously on the initial, because he frankly had some say in the start and stop because of that. I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page. We have not had any issues or concerns as of yet, but I can tell you there's some works in the making of how we can fluff around it a little bit to kind of give it a barrier, almost as not a fence type of stopper,
Mhm.
but maybe a built-up, whether it's surrounded by, you know, a raised garden type of scenario, or just solidify it a little bit more rather than just being set. But I think making this, excuse me, this progress pre-winter was really what our goal was, because that's where we really had some issues with ice and mud and that type of thing. And this lot there will actually be part of the asphalt, or is as of right now, for the capital improvements this upcoming summer, which might be a perfect time to address that entire corner, so.
Any other questions, any other detail needed for this piece?
Well, I want to thank you for the photos, and also, I consider this a technical report, and because so now I'm going to complain about the photos. Since we're not printing these, photos really should be full page. You know, we don't have to worry about using ink, so.
Sure.
Technical reports, all photos should have a caption, you know, and you've kind of covered that. But they really should be as large as possible also, just so that we can, you know, see what's in the photo.
Definitely.
So this happens all the time, trying to fit as many photos as possible on one page. It doesn't always work so well. So thanks for the photos, and if you could make them larger. I did have a question about the county line boiler replacement. There is a photo on the right of what I believe is the new boiler, and it's not shown too much. Is that where the?
Oh, yes.
What?
Yes.
I'm not sure what that's there for.
That is, that would be one that would be good with the picture blown up a little bit more. So that's a new side stream filtration, which we did not have, that I brought it up, well, since Amy Bell's boiler issues, adding side stream filtration at all of the buildings for each boiler. And that's one of them brand new and sparkly. That was, again, I would much prefer if I would take all the pictures. Unfortunately, I did not in that case, but that's what that was showing, just as an additional. I meant to make a comment on
So, but is it, I'm not seeing a tank or a filter or anything in the photo on my page. I'm not
it is that
Is it that silver thing?
silver cylinder looking
Okay,
In the middle?
contraption.
In the
So
middle of
that's-
the picture?
Yep.
so that's it.
That's-
Okay,
that's-
okay, very good.
So back to your point of one of the pictures, I mean, something
Yeah.
like that, again, I would wait until the very end and just take a picture of, hey, remember when I talked about the side stream, so. And we might even be able to hook up to the soft water system as well in this case, which would be a double bonus. Just
Okay.
as a side note.
Yeah, so another thing, I notice a lot of photos are actually taken too close, not giving the viewer the opportunity to look around or snoop around in them. This one might be actually too far away,
Yeah.
so I didn't know what was what in the photo.
I would agree. I will definitely, moving forward, that's part of what we're working on,
Yeah,
the photo
yeah,
part of it.
so it's great, great having some photos there. That way we don't have to guess when, what kind of brought this up was the installation of trees somewhere, and, we had no idea where they were. Looks like they're for shade down the road,
Sure.
at the football field, but of course the concern was that maybe they'd be growing over the building somewhere in the next couple of years.
Sure.
So,
No, yeah,
thank
that
you.
makes sense. Definitely.
Yep.
Thank you.
Would you like to go through the near future projects?
Yes, this is another one that I will I would like to just an ongoing kind of the previous month and a half, and then our month and a half as we see it, or as I can plan it, I should say, obviously, ever changing that way. But these are kind of the structured things that I know we have scheduled to complete within the month, and I think it's just kind of a good way to look forward and have an idea on what is going to be getting done. I'm trying to think, I had something else on that. It's not gonna be in mind in a minute. But as far as this one goes, a lot of these are gonna be between Christmas, winter break, and the month of January. And then I will update come February. We have a lot of good things happening, a lot of open doors that are finally being closed within the last year that we're gonna be remediating, and I'm extremely thrilled for that part of it. So, the water damage at OT PT room, I just want to make a note on that. That is not directly related to the flood of last year. That was an ongoing rooftop draining issue that we have since redirected. We had some crushed drain pipe. So we redirected that, and we no longer have a water issue, so.
Frank, it's not on here, but for the high school, could you touch on what's happening with the green space during winter break?
Yeah, I meant to put that on.
It's
Yes.
okay.
So the green space over winter break, we're going to have Bob Lurie in, and the construction company to put in the staff lounge door, the single door, and then the doors that we all agreed upon in the center, the main entrance doors. This is not a full project completion, but this is the install of the doors and getting that access. We do have everyone lined up as far as the Johnson controls, putting in the fire strobes, speakers, etc. And all of our, Securitas as well for all of our door controls. So this was pretty good. It worked out well that they could all meet up within the 3 days that they have. It is a 4-day project, so they are going to creep into the Friday the 22nd, half day right after lunch. They're gonna start doing the prep and setup, so they can get right after it. They'll be working on that Saturday, and then the 2 days following that next week. So that'll be exciting. And then once we come to spring, we'll start doing some more of the ramps and pads that we had decided to do, and some more of the pre-planned green space. So that'll be nice.
Tree removal,
Yes.
there's some massive trees in there that were probably cute when they were first planted.
Right.
Now we could saw them up for 2x4s and build a few homes.
That's right.
They're so big.
That's right. And I haven't had the discussion on necessarily what's going to be staying and what exactly is leaving for some of those smaller shrubs and trees. But I will definitely keep that updated as we move forward, just to kind of get it heads up, so. I want to see, is there any more I want to touch base on? That's pretty much what I have. Again, this is pilot. Probably have an ongoing document, something along the line of a Google Sheets printout that is a little bit cleaner. But again, I just was so excited to get the information out there that I just, as is.
Well, Dr. Reuter took my questions, so anybody else have any questions? Yes.
So Frank, you've previously shared with us the capital improvement plan, the 5-year plan. Is this list mutually exclusive or inclusive of that? Or do you foresee that being all one document or highlighting on this one what's on the capital improvement plan?
I will probably leave it separate, but do either a color-coded or a reference that would show that the capitals, because I would like to keep any capitals that might be included within this running document,
Yep.
and then have them directly coincide with the 5-year capital.
Okay.
That would be my perfect world plan is, I might have them both within one document, but I would prefer to keep them separate just for sharing purposes.
The capital improvement plan document has to be a separate document, but he can include those projects on
That's what
an
I'm wondering,
internal
if you
document.
could, like, put it in there, because, I mean, great work on this document. For us to see all the work that you guys do made me go back to this document and go, when did you squeeze this in?
Sure.
So
Sure.
if we can see down there, that'd be real helpful.
Definitely.
But I do understand that they have to be separate.
Yeah.
Don't mean to pile more work on you like that.
No, not at all. Honestly, it's not. A little more work out of the gate, but moving forward, it's easier for
Right.
myself and for presenting it, so I appreciate that.
Yes. Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, I have a question on Germantown High School. Of course, seeing anything to do with pool tile repairs raises an eyebrow. What's going on with that?
So these are just some of the bull noses on the corner of the diving area and some along the run sides that either became loose or are not there as of right now, taped up for safety. And they are going to come in free of charge to replace those.
Okay.
Sure. But overall, with the pool tile, we did, Dr. Reuter and myself met with them last week or the week before. The week prior to that, we met with Lippert as well as C.D. Smith to develop, they are creating a document, which they have, so I guess not creating, but they're sharing it with us, a document of the tiles that have already been replaced with new grout. So we're gonna get that document, and then we are creating a document between Lippert, ourselves, and C.D. Smith that they will be doing walkthroughs every 3 months. And then as time goes on, it hopefully will get further apart, because then eventually all the pieces of the pool would be replaced. They're saying right now the majority of it has been replaced, and we do walkthroughs as well, and the amount of tiles that are becoming loose and or cracking has reduced every time that we're doing the walkthroughs. We would like the whole entire pool replaced, but we're seeing that as they're replacing, the majority of it has already been replaced. So once we get those 2 documents, it will be shared with the board.
Okay. And then one other thing at the high school, the 20 amp breakers and 5 circuits to the interior concession stand. Is this because new equipment keeps showing up and getting plugged in, and we're having
Slow cookers, I think the volume of food and what is available within the concessions has definitely created a minor operation problem that's been very, very consistent. And, keeping up
Okay.
on the.
So this is a fix for
Yes,
that?
yeah, this will be a permanent fix.
Okay.
And maybe just a touch more for what might come in the future.
Okay, good, very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes. Mr. Ewert?
Just context for the pool tile repairs. That's all stemming from the referendum, and that's us holding those 2 companies to task on their liability to it, not our financial.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion on the near future projects? Okay. Item 5C, outdoor facilities meeting report. This is me. So on November 21st, a group of interested parties that included Dr. Reuter, Sarah U. Nerdl, members of the high school football coaching staff, the boys and girls soccer coaching staff, some other community leaders in the baseball community, myself. Unfortunately, a few representatives were not able to join. Mr. Ewert is part of that group as well. we got together to basically have an initial meeting and discussion regarding working together on creating an outdoor facilities master plan. Dr. Reuter, Ms. Unerdl provided us some background about some previous work, previous information that had been gathered that occurred approximately 4 or 5 years ago. Some very high-level plans that, if I remember correctly, and Dr. Reuter will correct me if I'm wrong, I think was provided to the district basically for free to kind of get that ball rolling. Unfortunately, COVID happened, that kind of was pushed off to the side, and so this group was brought together to kind of rekindle those discussions. I thought the discussion was very open, very honest. We identified some potential challenges, of course, but everyone basically got to speak their mind regarding kind of what their ideal situation would be, maybe some things that would be able to be pulled back, understanding that space and cost and everything else kind of comes into play with regards to that. I think it's reasonably safe to say that everyone feels that community is key with all of this, because in an ideal world, high school sports is kind of central to a community, and so that's also part of this. But ultimately, I think we walked away pleased with the discussion, and I think we all agreed that we should begin moving forward and trying to gather some high-level plans, try to take that next step forward to go, okay, is this something that we think we can take on as a community project going forward. So I think that's some of that is starting to happen. We don't have a next date set as of today, but I think we probably will be looking, once the holidays get by us here, I think we'll probably start to look at getting back together and moving things forward. Note that I've kind of called it a community involvement, community plan, because that is our approach. This isn't something that is fully going to be fully funded by the district, but that's where we are right now as far as moving forward. So everyone kind of knew that up front. Everyone kind of knows that this isn't an easy road to travel upon.
I would just add that tomorrow, Ms. Unerdl and I are meeting with a vendor that built the last outdoor facility conceptual model. It's called Point of Beginning, to hear their pitch and see if they'd be interested, or if there's a cost associated with building kind of a ideal state of an outdoor facility, whether it be the soccer fields, football fields, bringing the softball diamonds to the high school, practice fields, and just seeing a conceptual model. So that one of the big things from the group was every discipline of every athletic has kind of their ideal state, but we have to look at it as a facility and what that could look like. And then from there, it's about that team and possibly others starting to build a campaign that would help through fundraising causes and a concerted effort of all maybe youth groups and high school groups working together towards a concerted effort. But first we wanted to provide, it sounded like from a couple participants in the group that had this conversation 5, 6, 7 years ago with the community, it was like everyone saying, this is what I'd like, this is what I'd like, and then it all just fizzled out, versus let's get an ideal state of what a master facility outdoor plan could look like at the high school, and how that could benefit not only varsity programming, but JV programming and youth programming, and then we'll build a campaign towards that if that's the way the group and the board would like to go. But to Mr. Pollock's point, it's more of a fundraising aspect versus district operations and budget. So it was I would call it a town hall meeting, right? It was just kind of getting everyone's voice out, and everyone was a key player, whether it's in the youth programming or our high school programming.
And it was a good discussion, because everyone, to your point, brought their ideas, but they also realized and kind of, even deferred to some aspects of, yeah, but this group kind of really needs it a little bit more than us right now. So there was even that initial realization that if we want to move forward with this, there may be even some give and take, whether it's football giving something up to soccer, or soccer giving up something to softball, or whatever the case might be. So I think it was an excellent, very open, very honest discussion. when all was said and done.
Yeah, we referenced a lot. I've been talking with Grafton superintendent, similar to us. They went through a referendum 4 years ago, and their indoor facilities were upgraded, but then their outdoor facilities were not touched from referendum dollar. And then it was, okay, we've got these great indoor facilities like we have. Now, how do we get field turf on the football field? How do we upgrade the seating? How do we improve the track? How do we improve the baseball diamonds? Those type of things. So that was, we're talking with Mr. Nelson over there, the superintendent. He talked about their process and what they went through. So we started to replicate that a little bit with this first initial. Let's just talk about how much, what needs to, in your opinion, as coaches, as youth directors, what needs to be improved on our fields, and then what does that look like in totality? And that came out of that came, we need to see a picture. We need to see a model of what something could look like, not next week, not next year, but down the road. And then if we have that, that can start the campaign to promote to the community. This is what we're working towards. How do we all work concertedly, because everyone fundraises, but how do we do that together? And then what does that look like from a district level if we're not on that 5-year capital plan, or even on what Mr. Lord shared tonight? We're not fixing fences and things like that because we have money there. How do we offset other budgetary line items that we don't have to put money towards, that we can then move over towards this project? But that's all conceptual in the sky right now. This was the first conversation to get the people that are excited about hopefully making this happen in the room together, versus the multiple one-on-one conversations I've had with parents and community members over the last year and a half.
Questions?
Are the original plans or the plans from last time still around? Has anyone looked at them?
I can get a copy of it. The problem is it's pre-referendum. So
Is it that long ago?
Yeah, so it's the field house isn't there, the PAC isn't there, so even where some of the practice fields or ideas for movement, it was even hard for the group
Yeah.
to look at these and go, wait, what school district is this? Because of living with the
Okay.
new layout for the past 5+ years.
So
But I can get you a
PAC.
copy.
Maybe my memory is not correct. I thought we talked about this after the referendum construction was complete. I wasn't aware that the, field house and that wasn't on those drawings, but I thought we talked about it after the referendum construction was complete, and it didn't go anywhere because we were talking several $1 million to do all this work, and there was no
Sure.
desire
Yep.
at the time.
The plans that Ms. Ingerl provided to us is when she first started here, and that was, the referendum project wasn't completed yet, so it was from the bird's eye view of the previous site map.
Okay.
But I can get you a copy of that. I can update the board on how the meeting goes tomorrow as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, moving forward, item 6, unfinished business, there is none. And item number 7, new business, Rockfield PTA playground equipment.
Yes, so the Rockfield PTA submitted a project or building site modification form to add or install 2 Kid Force spinners into the existing playground area and 3 slide mats for under the slide areas. Lee Recreation is to furnish and install these items. They conducted a site visit to get all the necessary measurements and confirm that the equipment and space layout was correct. The Rockfield PTA will fund or donate this project with, I shouldn't say that, I'm sorry, that will be coming up this next month. I believe that will be coming to the board as far as the donation goes. But as far as getting things ordered, just due to the winter and installs, they wanted to get this kind of on the docket, and it was sitting there in my back pocket ready to go. So I'd figure I'd present it as is. I personally and the department do not see any issues with any ongoing maintenance or safety concerns. And in fact, the rubber mats, the slide mats we do have at the majority of the schools in the majority of the areas, but at Rockfield for sure. There's a couple missing that I actually made marks of after this was brought to my attention, just to potentially get at other schools. But these are a great thing to have to reduce liability.
questions from the group? Yes, Ms. Barney?
To Mr. Lowe's point about us having those discussions before, November 12th, 2018, Building Committee meeting minutes has discussion about moving the middle school softball fields to the high school, and discussion about football field turf, high school track resurfacing. So there was some discussion November of 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll go back and look at that.
Yes, Mr. Ewert?
Thank you. Is this Rockfield PTA, is this for the 4K playground? The
Yes.
only reason I ask is just with family going there, I think that was at a PTA meeting where that was in discussion of,
Yeah, I think what
raising money
really
for a
drove that
4K.
was that there wasn't enough for 4K necessarily to play on, or was fit to them, so to say. And I know these spinners are definitely within that wheelhouse or that age frame. So I believe that was the initial driver behind these. But they added the slide mats just due to the fact that that is areas that get dug out pretty quickly and become hard ground, so, harder ground.
thank you.
Any other discussion? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the installation of 2 Kid Force spinners into the existing playground area and 3 slide mats for under each of the slides at Rockfield Elementary School, based on the approval of Rockfield PTA's donation at the Board of Education meeting in January.
Second,
Brown with the motion, Lowe with the second. Any discussion?
I would just like to thank the PTA for their fundraising. We have great PTAs, and unlike a group that was at the annual meeting, I think somehow the board was criticized for the schools having great PTAs. So we're thankful for our PTAs, and I don't think it's anything against the board that the PTAs are willing to raise funds for playground items. It's all a win for the school district.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain one final motion.
Motion to adjourn?
I will second.
Lowe with the motion, Brown with the second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting ends at 4:53.
call this Germantown School District Teaching and Learning Committee meeting to order at 4:59 p.m. Item 2, roll call. Tracy Pollock,
Here.
Kim Hagemuth,
Here.
Russ Ewart, myself, here. Item 3, agenda revisions and approval.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Siegenbotham with the motion, Mr. Pollock with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Item 4, approval of minutes, November 6, 2023 committee meeting minutes.
Move to approve the November 6, 2023 committee meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Mr. Pollock with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 5, reports and updates. Mr. Miziak, reading pilot update. Should be 5A we're on. Update number 4.
All right, so we're getting pretty close. And this was supposed to be the month in which we would make some final decisions regarding the reading pilot, but the state of Wisconsin threw us a few curveballs. So, as you know, we still have 3 pilots that are going at the elementary school. I think one of the benefits of having the extended pilot, one of the things that has happened is teachers have gained more familiarity with the resource, and internally, there have been some opinions and some conceptions about the program that have changed over time, and they've been positive changes. So some of the early struggles that have sometimes led to teachers not feeling 100% confident with a particular resource, part of that was just the implementation piece of starting something new and using it and being exposed to that different resource. But the meetings that principals have had with teachers regarding the pilots that are being used in their classrooms have been very positive. So all 3 right now, I think, are in a really good state of utilization within our buildings. So the other piece of that is Kennedy Middle School has also started piloting their resources. So we have HMH going on in 6th grade. Study Sync from McGraw-Hill is in 7th grade, and then in 8th grade, they were piloting both. So they started with HMH's product, which is called Into Literature, and then they're transitioning to Study Sync. One of the challenges that we have at the middle school is their literacy classes also do writing. So they're taking a brief pause from the reading pilot to go in to do Lucy Calkins' writer's workshop, and then they'll come back to do Study Sync. I met with all the pilot teachers during the professional development day to collect feedback from them. And again, there's a lot of positive feedback regarding the resources that are being used. They're also posing some questions around some of the tech pieces of those and some of the struggles that kids had using the resources in that way. So not the physical pieces, but the tech side. And we're reaching out to the pilot companies to get their responses on how we can use that more effectively in those classes. But again, I think the vast majority of the feedback that we're receiving from teachers right now has been very positive about both of the programs. One of the other pieces that we're looking at is in one particular grade level, 8th grade, the teachers felt like it may have been just the unit that the students were exposed to, so it was a nonfiction unit. So they thought the level of engagement may be different if they moved them into a fiction unit. So there is a small alteration that we're doing to the middle school plan where they're going to pilot 2 units from each one of them to make sure that they have a healthy balance of what the resource looks like, to give us a full picture of each one of those resources. Unlike the elementary pilot where teachers are only using one resource throughout the entire time, at the middle school in both 7th and 8th grade, we're doing a stacked model where they're using Study Sync and HMH so that they can get a picture of both of those resources.
Any questions? Do we have an idea when the state is going to be
So the
ready
last
to honor us with their thoughts?
Yes. So the decision by the state really impacts K2. So that's the piece that we're waiting on, and I think that then cascades all the way up because I do think that may have an impact on where 3-5 would like to go. It would, I think most of our teachers aren't looking at doing HMH into reading in K2 and then switching to Wonders 3.5 and then switching to something else in the middle school. I think once we know what K2 will look like, that will help us make a decision across the board. The committee that is meeting, the Early Literacy Curriculum Council, they had a discussion about how fast that they could do this, and there were legislators from the state who joined that meeting, and the legislators didn't necessarily say, yes, you can change the date. They said that they would support them in doing the work, and they wanted them to do the right work. And from that, the council decided that they were going to extend the date, and the date that they had mentioned in their last meeting was January 30th. So all curriculum companies have to provide documentation on a rubric that the committee is using or the council is using, and that has to be in by January 15th. Our companies have submitted the information to that, so they are being considered by the council to be moved forward with. So we will know by the end of January where they're going, and that'll be helpful information for us. That doesn't really slow down us in terms of collecting data. I think we'll be able to prioritize the resources based on the information that we have, and then once the state information comes in, that'll just be the next gateway that will pass through. So the big piece that I'm sharing with you tonight is the reading pilot rubric. I won't go through every line of this, but I'd like to explain to you how they're going to use it, because at the elementary level, like I said, teachers aren't seeing, they're not actually using both resources in their classroom or all three resources in their classroom. They definitely do have a work. That's okay. I could deal with my echo there. They definitely have a working knowledge of what those resources look like. We've gotten pilot teachers into other classrooms so that they could see the resources in action. Within the same building, there's multiple resources being used, so they're talking to each other, they're comparing the resources on an ongoing basis. But one of the key features that I think is necessary for us to evaluate each one of these programs is to have a tool that all three of the resources will be evaluated on, and our teachers will use that. So that's this rubric that I provided to you. Underneath the reading pilot update, kind of the key points that we've just talked about, I'm reminding you of the priorities of the reading resource. So back in the spring, we had talked about what the teachers really had prioritized and what we're looking for in a resource, and that then translated into pieces of this rubric. So what you'll see in the rubric are kind of some critical areas in which we're asking teachers to take a look at the program and then evaluate it. Underneath each one of the key areas, so for example, we have alignment with prioritized reading learning objectives. Underneath there's some success criteria for teachers to look at to determine, does the resource meet these success criteria? They're not limited to just looking at those. Those are examples. We didn't try to include every single bullet point there could possibly be. The purpose of those bullets are to help them understand what that category is and what they should be evaluating. We're only collecting one score for that entire area from teachers, not an individual list of all of those bullets. So then once we have that information from each one of our teachers, we'll be able to evaluate kind of broadly how each one of our pilot groups used the resource and felt about the resource in those critical areas. Again, we'll evaluate that on a K2 basis and a 3.5 basis, and then as a system. The real the outside chance that we would have different resources would be if we went Super Kids K2, because that's just a K2 program. Otherwise, it'll be evaluating Wonders K5 or HMH K5.
I was reading through the rubric, and it looks like a lot of details gone into this process. I think when we started the piloting process, this was part of the overall game plan that you and Chris had put together in regards to this. But to see it come to life on a page and see how detailed it is and how much information we're taking back from our staff on it is fantastic. So. appreciate the efforts in that end.
And in the development of this is something that was shared with our reading specialists, with our principals, with teachers on the front end, so that if there were any elements of it that they thought should be adjusted or further explained, they were allowed to provide feedback, and then I responded to that feedback in the rubric so that we could make it as user-friendly for our teachers as possible.
So eventually you're gonna come back with obviously all the results. Are we gonna get just kind of like the number, 1, 2, or 3, or there's gonna be feedback as far as the strength?
So if there, so teachers will be able to provide written feedback if they want to for a particular area, so they can share their thoughts in that way. But then, part of it I can kind of seek feedback from you on what you think would be best, if you want a summary score for that, or if you want each of the individual scores that each one of the teachers provided. I can provide it either way.
I think it'd be nice just to know as far as what the strengths of the program, what they saw was the strengths, what they saw were the weaknesses, and kind of why it got that score versus just a score.
Yeah, I think it's important for that too, because I know you had mentioned the lower grades are going to impact what the upper grades are, but I would hate to put some restraints on the upper grades because it was only best for the lower grades, and I have every bit of confidence your team is taking that all into consideration. But if we can see these ratings and see what our teachers are saying, kind of unscrubbed, would be fantastic.
Especially because if we're looking at potentially K2 being something different, just because it is that much better than just having the same curriculum throughout.
Tracy?
I agree with you, Coach.
Okay. Yeah, I want to make sure you had an opportunity. I know you jump. Yeah, Eric.
I don't see it on the packet provided, but in my notes, I had written down that November 1, you're going to reach out to the community and provide for an opportunity for parent feedback.
Yep. So I still have the parent survey. One of the pieces with extending the pilot, I also wanted to extend that period when we were going to reach out to parents. So the parent survey is going to go out so that we can collect that. The timing was I just pushed everything a little bit further into the future because of the extension of our pilot. So each one of the pilot companies, we didn't actually have enough materials to get us to the end. So we've extended that with each one of our companies. So I just wanted to provide them a little bit of extra time to have that with them and their children.
Okay.
But we still will have, so you'll have multiple layers of feedback in addition to just this. So the pieces that will still come will have pre and post for MAP assessments for grades 1 through 5. For kindergarten, the plan is you'll get a reference point. So because we don't MAP test our kindergartners in the fall, because they're very new to school at that point, you'll be able to look at data from kindergarten pilot classrooms compared to non-pilot classrooms. So that will be the basis of comparison there. But grades 1 through 5, you'll be able to have pre and post data for our pilot classrooms. So we'll have the actual achievement data and growth data for our kids. You'll have the rubric evaluation from our teachers. We did student focus groups where we collected information, so you'll get to hear some of the voices of students in the process. And then the last piece will be the community feedback from parents.
Thank you.
With the state pushing that back, we're still good with our deadline for implementation heading into next school year?
Yeah, I don't see any major challenges in terms of shifting it by a couple of months. The one bigger drawback to it is the number of professional development days that occur afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it looks like we'll be able to have at least one that we could fully dedicate to providing teachers with some information about the resource, so that they have some of that front loaded by the time that they get the resource, and then heading into the summer, they'll have access to those materials and that initial training that goes along with it. So that should lead to them feeling a little bit more prepared to launch it in the fall.
We're not talking about August 30th, here's the materials.
Nope.
Good luck.
Well, it's gonna be a credit to the teachers that they don't end up using their curriculum, that they now have to learn 2 different curriculums within a short period of time, so credit to them.
Mhm.
And we're gonna have to go through that process.
Yeah, and every time I meet with the teachers, I reiterate, you know, this process has been built ground up with them. Their voices have been extremely important to the process, but then on the back end of that, when you think about the work that they have to do within the classroom on a daily basis to use a brand new resource, that's a challenging situation for them to be in, but they're dedicated to making sure that we have the best resources possible in our students' hands.
And you said they're already visiting other classrooms just to
Yep,
kinda
so
see
the,
that
some of
work.
them, some of the times it's been within building, but we've even made the accommodation so that they could leave their building so that they could see Super Kids happening at the same grade level in a different building.
And nothing as far as the state has gone off track. I think we were pretty comfortable with the 3 that we chose tracking to be under this umbrella of recommendation in some form or fashion based off of its foundations in the science of reading.
Correct. Good.
Anything else? We can move on to, if there's nothing else, we can move on to 5B KMS schedule review.
All right, tonight we have a special guest for the Teaching and Learning Committee. I think this might be my first special guest that I've brought.
It's quite an honor,
You're welcome, Jess. So Jess and I this year have been working with a team of middle school teachers. It started back in August, I think was our very first
Well, we started in May, actually. We had our first meeting in May.
in May. That's why I brought my special guest. And I'll let Jess kind of explain why we even started thinking about looking at the schedule at Kennedy Middle School.
All right, so my first summer here was July 2022. I did a one-on-one chats where I met individually with every single staff, almost every single staff member at Kennedy Middle School, and asked them what's going well at Kennedy, what could be better, what could be improved, and then what do they want from a principal. What could be improved, one of the big themes that came through with that was the schedule, and that was for 2 reasons. One, there was an unstructured time in the middle of our day called SAS and IDR, which is a study hall and reading. And then the other reason was because our tech ed, social studies, science, all coordinated arts, I should say, were only 40 minutes, and they wanted an extended time. They didn't feel like that was enough. So we decided to look at our whole schedule. In the middle of the day, we have an hour and a half that includes a half an hour study hall, lunch, and then a half an hour IDR. So we started thinking about how we could take that time, keep an advisory period, which is very common in school districts around this area, keep that 30-minute, but then how else could we better use that extra 30 minutes? So that's what really was the impetus for this whole schedule change.
So this is something that, again, teachers had a lot of voice in saying this is something that we would like to take a look at. And Jess brought me into the process so that we could collaboratively work together to take a look at the KMS schedule. So what I provided for you is kind of a process that Jess and I have gone through with that team. It started very early on in terms of identifying what the values of that team were related to the schedule specifically. So when we talked about what was working really well within that schedule, what did they value within the schedule, and what were some of the challenges of the schedule. And as Jess has mentioned, some of the things that they thought were strengths were around core instruction, and that math, ELA, science, social studies, they see their students every single day, and they saw that as a strength. They saw the importance of making sure that there was a time in the day to build connections with students in the middle school. And they also identified a strength that we had longer math and ELA blocks because for both of those content areas, the amount of standards that are associated with it and the amount of time that it takes to fully immerse kids in those standards, it takes a little bit of extra time. So those longer blocks for math and ELA were strengths that they saw in the schedule. And then as Jess had mentioned from her individual meetings with teachers, the team also acknowledged that IDR and SAS structure wasn't really working, that it was a longer period of time during the day that wasn't as structured as they wanted it to be for middle school kids. And then the other two big drawbacks were the coordinated arts and science and social studies classes, where some of our coordinated arts teachers mentioned, by the time you're running an art class and kids get their supplies and they get to their seat, and you still have to allow for them to clean up, there's not a whole lot of time for them within that art class to work on their project. The same thing with gym. A lot of the coordinated arts classes have a little bit of setup and takedown at the end of it, which really doesn't maximize the amount of instructional time that they have. So as we started to look at the priorities and values, we worked through the team to create some themes of what they thought would be important for any kind of schedule that we would try to modify. And one of the big things that they talked about was still making sure that we had choice and opportunities for students to explore different ideas in the coordinated arts. They wanted to make sure that there was still a time within the day that they could build connections with kids. They thought the structure should be appropriate for middle school kids, so thinking about middle school kids as the special types of humans that middle schoolers are, to make sure that there's some movement that's built into the school day for them that, we think about when's the best time for a middle schooler to have one of their core classes, when is it best for them to have an advisory period that they can see a teacher and ask questions about their homework. Would that work the best at the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, the end of the day? So thinking about the schedule in terms of the middle school student. They also said it was very important for them to have common planning time for their teams. So the way that the KMS schedule works right now, the 8th grade math teachers have a designated time within the school day that they can meet, collaborate, talk about the lessons that they're doing with students. And they also wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for academic support, so when students needed help, that there was a time for them to get that. In addition to that, what we did was we started to review the best practices in middle school scheduling. So there is some research out there about what are some of the best practices that you can have in a middle school, and they compared that. They also asked questions about the state requirements and minute allocations for the schedule to make sure that we weren't violating any of the requirements that we have. So when we took a look at those items plus their values plus the big priorities that they have, we started narrowing it down to what some scheduling options would look like. The intent for next steps is we'll bring you some of the final pieces for what they've landed on in a schedule. We're still working through some of the mechanics of what that would look like. I can tell you some of the big pieces that would look different between the KMS schedule that I provided in the packet and kind of where the team is going. The biggest changes that you would see is that middle of the day piece, where kids will no longer have 2 half-an-hour blocks that are allocated for SAS and IDR. It would just be 1 half-an-hour-ish block of time that students would have to meet some of the needs that we accomplished during that SAS time, where they can see an additional teacher for help, where they can work on homework, where they can build connections with a teacher and have a kind of go-to teacher for them when they need help with something. So you'll see that within that schedule. And then the way that time allocation works out is we would take the leftover block from SAS and IDR and allocate that into the other class hours, thus resulting in a little bit of extra time for ELA and math, and then giving each one of our coordinated arts classes more time as well.
If anybody else has something, go ahead. And so when you brought this up initially, the first things were student experience related to me, as far as the IDR lunch SAS. It's those 3 in order. So when I see that as a parent, I can only imagine what the school's dealing with as far as like an academic startup to the day, and then kind of a break from that, and then a restart in the afternoon. So we probably see a little more consistency not to have quite such a long break in the middle. So maybe that start up in the afternoon, the refocus of the children is a little quicker and easier for our staff. Obviously, that this sounds like this came generated initially from staff at the school that's been there, trying to figure out what would work best for everybody involved, them and the students. And then third is if these coordinated arts sections become a little longer. I know we've had conversations about other programming that we have to offer, and they tend to then go into currently an ELA or math because they're the longer blocks, but then we're losing those instructional times in our core areas, and that might open up the door to push those into some of our softer skill areas if those classes are longer. Is that a possibility, I guess?
I'm not sure that I understand the question. We haven't finalized the time blocks right now, but to give you a frame of reference, one of the common schedules we've looked at has math and ELA around 90 minutes for students. That would be an extension from what they currently have. So it would give us more time in math and would give us more time in ELA. And then for each one of our coordinated arts classes and science and social studies, those would extend to about 45 minutes. From a logistics standpoint, when you have the larger block being twice as long as the shorter block, that just structurally works out better into the schedule. But it also is a benefit for our teachers in terms of prep time. It blocks their prep time together. If you had deviations in how long those classes were, so for example, we changed the distribution to be 80 minutes of those longer blocks and 50 minutes of the coordinated arts, you end up with these little tiny pieces of time to try and fill those gaps. So then teachers have 15 minutes of prep time in between two classes and then a longer period of prep time someplace else. And that generally isn't the most effective way. That way teachers can get in, they can start collaborating with one another, they can stay on that same task that they're working on, and they can have a period of time that's designated for that versus having this 15-minute unstructured time. I don't know if I answered your question or...
Yeah, so I was more referencing, I believe our previous director of pupil services last spring, I want to say, I'd have to look at my notes to see exactly what it was. There's a program we have to bring through via the state. It's mandated. And my initial issue with it was, well, it got put in, it was either math or ELA. And the answer provided to us at that time was, well, because that was the most significant block of time, and it would be harder to fit all of the required material into one of our shorter blocks. So I think this would lend to us having more flexibility with those types of programs,
Yeah, and that's
not interrupting our core studies.
correct. And once we structurally figure out the schedule piece, the next step that the team wants to discuss is what that advisory time looks like, and that might be an ideal time for programs like you're discussing. So, twice.
I think it was suicide prevention.
That's the one that's at the top of my head. I think
Yeah.
there was
Or
others
something else
in
as well.
discussion, but I think that was one
It
that
was
he
thinking- it was
formally.
supplanting math time.
Yeah.
And this advisory can be used in that capacity, because if you think about what that yields for teachers, it's going to be it's a smaller group of kids just because of the nature of it. All teachers have an advisory period. It's all running at the same time, unlike other periods of the day where some teachers would have prep and they don't have students with them. During an advisory period of the day, all teachers would have students. So the class sizes during that period of time is a little bit smaller. So if you're dealing with a sensitive topic like suicide prevention, sometimes that works a little bit better when you have a little bit smaller group of students to work with.
It would mirror an advisory from a structure standpoint to what happens then once they get to GHS as well. So understanding what an advisory time can be utilized for, maybe career exploration, those specialized programs, and just having a go-to teacher in a smaller environment as well.
It's also called home-based, homeroom. Those are some other ways that we used to call it.
Jess, can you just let the committee and full board, I guess, know who, kind of the makeup of the team and how many people that is?
Yeah, we have about, I'd say about 20 people on the team, and we've got a representative from 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, coordinated arts, counseling, student services, admin, and district office,
Special education.
and special education. And that was by, I asked who wanted to be part of it, and it naturally formed like that, so pretty cool. A lot of people
President
wanted to be
Medved.
involved.
Question for you. Do we have any data on length of class, the effectiveness, shorter versus longer? I haven't looked into that in a while. I know at younger ages, longer classes are not good. Do we have data to support what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish? I get the whole program with half classes and full classes.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, so in the research that the team looked at, they kind of gave a window for when, what's the ideal time for an ELA or a math class. And it really is kind of a range of time. Most of them are bordering on longer than an hour would be required for both math and ELA. Some of them going all the way up to 120 minutes. One of the discussions that Jess and I had with the team is it's never going to be just about the amount of time that we allocate to math or ELA or any subject area. I can't just say, here's 120 minutes to do ELA, and then all of a sudden you're going to see our ELA scores rocket up. It's what are the instructional practices that we're using during that block of time, and what are the things that we need to do professionally on the professional development side to build up capacity to think about, if we do have a 90-minute block, which is slightly longer than we have right now, what might that look like? And we have a teacher who's on the team who talks about some of the math practices that she uses in her classroom, where she's got kids up and she's got them at the boards, and then she brings them back down for a discussion. So it's how do you utilize the time that you have, because you can use 40 minutes and do some amazing things in that, which a lot of our coordinated arts teachers are already doing. And then if we give them 120 minutes, you can't just replicate that 3 times and then say that's how I'm going to use my block. So you'll see, you can find research that says, well, just shifting to a block schedule doesn't necessarily increase student performance. It's never going to be about just the amount of time that we allocate. It's about how we use the minutes within those blocks. So 90 minutes it's still pretty much in the sweet spot of the research would say that's about what's appropriate. Our math teacher, one of the math teachers who's on the team said, it's very tight right now, and she's thinking about that 80-minute time period that she has for math, that she really has to go to get it all done, and that there are still times where they're not accomplishing everything she hopes to accomplish during that block time. So 90 minutes she thought would be an amazing thing. We had an art teacher who was on the team, and there was kind of this debate about, is 5 minutes really, is that really a big deal that we're giving this? And her response was, 5 minutes would mean the world to me because of all the different things that we could then accomplish with that 5 extra minutes during that time period. So I think some of those small shifts could go a long way for what our staff's looking for.
Yeah, I think the big concern for me was the focus issue. We can keep kids focused for that amount of time, but it's not necessarily what they're capable of, it's what we're capable of pulling from them. Are we able to keep them engaged and keep them active and keep them up and down and moving around?
Yep.
That was exactly what I was going to say. You're talking about engagement strategies. We've
Yeah.
got physical engagement, movement, emotional engagement, social engagement, intellectual engagement.
Right.
So those are some of the professional development opportunities that we can have. Not just give them 90 minutes and say go, but here's how to best use 90 minutes to keep a middle schooler engaged.
Right. If you can keep them moving and engaged,
Yep.
and 90 minutes will go quick.
That's true.
They'll be like, oh, we're done already?
I've taught in a 90-minute class, and it goes really fast when you've got things moving, and the students are leading it, and they're moving from one thing to another. It's a really cool experience.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you. I think this is another example of the entire team pulling in a direction from the ground up. So I think it's exciting to see that. I think we've heard some narratives that doesn't necessarily happen, and I think it's just another way we're dispelling some of those narratives. So I appreciate the hard work that's going into all these different categories. So thank you. Item 6, unfinished business, we have none. Item 7, new business, we have none. Item 8, I will take a motion.
Move to adjourn?
I will second.
Mr. Pollock with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? We are adjourned at 5:34 p.m. Bring the Germantown School District Personnel Committee meeting to order December 18th at 38. Let's start with a roll call. Mr. Pollock.
Here.
Ms. Higginbotham.
Here.
Myself, here. Item 3, agendas, revisions, and approval.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Ms. Higginbotham with the motion, Mr. Pollock with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 4, approval of November 6, 2023 meeting minutes.
Move to approve the November 6th, 2023 meeting minutes.
I will second.
Mr. Pollak with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Item 5, reports and updates. We have Mr. Nowak here with us. Item 5A, teaching resignations.
Thank you. We have one resignation to bring forward. Alyssa Schneider submitted her letter of resignation on November 20th, 2023. Alyssa was hired in August of 2013 as a speech and language pathologist in the Germantown School District. We ask that you, well, this is just personnel, so I know it's brought forward in consent agenda, but if there's anything we'd like to discuss here.
Just notating that it's, I believe, our second speech and language pathologist.
Correct, yeah. This is, and I know a little bit about the district that this person is going to. Ironically, someone left that district from the same role. So there's an awful lot of that going on with this particular position. Some of it is school district to school district related. Some of it, because it's a unique position, is school district or school setting to clinical setting, because their license, granted they have to have kind of both licenses, but many do and have that ability. Sometimes we'll get people from the clinical setting to come to us, and vice versa. Sometimes we have to go into, say, the hospital setting.
This particular instance, this is district to district
Correct.
for the same position, or?
Same position. I know compensation was an important factor in things. The district that this person is going to is one that they desired for multiple reasons. So that's where we're at.
So you said compensation and then multiple reasons that they desire this other district?
Yeah,
Is
some of it.
compensation that, or is it?
Compensation was a major driver. I want to say proximity. I want to say reputation of the district. It's a district in the area that has a very strong reputation, but compensation was definitely a driver.
If I remember correctly, I think that had something to do with our last as well.
It did, although that one, I think there was more of a family piece to it.
Yeah, I'm just
with
looking
certain-
for common threads, and when we see it in the same area,
Yep.
Close proximity, I think this is almost, what, month or 2 months apart?
Well, it actually
Am I right on
happened-
that timeline?
Yeah, it happened right up against our last meeting. It was.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
so
November
close to
20th,
it.
that's right. Well, I believe as I look through the agenda, we're gonna be taking care of one of these spots while then reopening it
Yep.
due to this. So it's not that we're unable to attract somebody to fill this, it's just potentially we're losing internal experience through.
Right. Based on the other resignation that you talked about, we're losing 2 speech paths. In this personnel packet, we're bringing forward a new speech path that we're very excited about. I feel very strongly in what she'll bring to the district. We also have one coming in tomorrow. So I know we'll get to that, but it's our hope that as we begin the new year, new calendar year, we're staffed in the speech path position.
Okay. I think as we proceed through the night and more so into the full board, I think we're gonna hear a lot about creative solutions to pay within our buildings, and just seeing this as a back-to-back scenario that was mentioned in both of them, where we can isolate as part of the decision, and very rarely is that ever gonna not be part of a decision and somebody leaving or coming or going, but this might be one of those areas we have to get creative on retention and or attraction.
Right. And if it's where you're going, I think that the tie-in is as we talk about a compensation study, and we look at market analysis of particular positions, that's where that retention piece comes into play relative to positions like this.
So I think we're moving in that direction, but it appears the market's moving faster, so to speak. So I get it. I hear it. We hear it in the community, right? We're not deaf to it, and I don't think anyone up here, and I'll speak for myself, but conversations we've had, I don't think anyone here has their head buried in the sand about employee retention, attracting the best candidates, and pushing forward to build the best school system we can for our community. I think that's a priority for us. I think we hear about this more, but I think we hear about this more because this committee asked to hear about it more. Because it holds the committee, the board, and the district responsible for ensuring we are acting timely on some of these things. So I get it. I get that that's out. That narrative is out there that this is quote unquote happening more, but we're talking about it more intentionally. So as we move forward, we'll continue to work through some of those solutions. Thank you.
Did you say that speech pathology seems to be not even just particularly our district, but multiple districts are having issues with the speech pathology?
This is the hottest, there's just a rotation in the region.
Do we know why? I mean, is there?
There's a shortage of the position, and there's more and more students that need speech
Yeah.
paths.
And as I said, the case of where this particular speech path is going, there's one leaving there.
It's not that there are more kids, they're jumping to another district. This is the fill, it's a domino effect.
Right, yeah, it just kind of seems a lot of movement there.
It's impacting private schools as well, because when part of our responsibility is to service through special education the private schools within our school district boundaries.
Sure.
First, second, public school students, so it's hurting private schools as well, with
Right.
number of minutes met and those type of things.
Anything else on that one? 5B, teacher contracts. Guess what we have on here?
Yeah, it literally flip the coin. The first teacher contract we bring forward is for Paige Christ. This is at County Line Elementary. Now, this isn't for the speech path that just left. This was for the initial one from our last meeting. So Paige comes to us. This will be on a limited term basis to finish out the year. Our hope is that she stays with us and that we roll this into a regular contract. We're very encouraged about the experience and level of expertise that she brings. Our speech paths are excited to have her. Our administration is, this is one where I get calls, are we there? Is she on? Is she with us? So we're very excited about this one. The second one, the second teacher contract to bring forward is for Reagan Chris. It's at Kennedy Middle School, 8th grade language arts position. This position is being recommended as a result of a teacher resignation that was from earlier this fall. It's a limited term contract, 93 days, at $19,578. Again, many times when we hire in this situation mid-year, it sets the stage for, these are candidates, teachers with very strong potential to stay with us. Our conversations with them are pretty honest and open relative to, at the end of the school year, because this is limited term, your contract ends, but we're in a position where most likely both of these will be required relative to staffing. The hope would be that they're able to stay with us.
Anything? Yeah, I think it shows that we're out there recruiting, right? We're bringing in people to fill these positions. I think, and to your point, part of the front conversation with them, it sounds like, is about while this is limited term, we're always looking for the following year. And I would assume that's happening as that onboarding comes in, or the interview process. What are your plans for the future? Is this just something you're interested in for the short term, or in a long-term role?
Yeah, it's obviously not something we can guarantee, but, you know, we make it very clear that in one of these cases, it's a new teacher it's in the process of completing student teaching. And, you know, it's a unique time for anyone like that to be starting, because unless they go into a day-to-day subbing situation, they're in a limited term role like this. As they look to employment beyond this school year, being able to say that they were in a role for an extended period of time goes a long, long way. So as much as they have to offer us, we have something to offer them. It's an exciting time for them to, you know, grow into the position. Jess worked with this particular hire quite a bit, and was very excited to bring Reagan in.
If nobody has anything else on that, we'll go to 5C, staffing update.
Yeah, and this is our regular report that will come anytime we have this committee. Some of this seems similar to the last time we were together, but it simply because of the positions and what's unfolded with the speech paths. But the general theme of what we see, you can see it in the chart on page 2, but I summarized it relative to positions. In terms of teacher contracted positions, there are 3 positions. There's the ELL position, which we are interviewing for this week and hope to solidify someone in that role for after the break. The speech path, which we've been talking about, and then the interpreter position is still out there to be filled. One of those, like Dr. Reuter was saying, it's very difficult in the area, in the state, probably in the nation to find. So we're still working through that. We still are looking for building subs. As those are TOC candidates, we continue to seek candidates to fill those. We talked today about some creative solutions that we'd like to explore. But as we've said, we need to do that because we're not seeing the interest that we thought we would. People like the flexibility of subbing. I think when we meet again, we'll share a little more, hopefully more, relative to another way that we can do this. It's a way of looking at, I think I can say this, working with our current aides who are in limited roles and utilizing them via TOC potentially in situations where they might want to work more and their schedules align. We have the ability to do that. So we'd like to explore that.
I think those 3, I mean, they stand out. It's a position that we created as an attempt to problem solve some substitute, or I shouldn't say problem solve, but add to some consistency around our subbing. So while it looks like there's 3 vacant positions, these are positions, the subs are still there. They're just not being filled as a building sub, which the initial start, my understanding, was to build some consistency around faces and people in our buildings. So, I think the language, the interpreter, it's an interesting one. That's one we've been seeing on here for quite some time now.
We're currently using outside contracted services, but we'd like to
Yeah,
have,
the services are being provided,
it's
but
just not with our employee consistently the same person.
yeah, and that's why we'd have one on staff, right? That consistency
And you made
side of
that
it.
change as a board to make that a teaching position versus an hourly employee as well.
Yeah, that did happen.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
It's posted that way.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are things that, when we talk about creative solutions, we're taking those steps. It's not that nothing's being done and these just sit vacant.
Right.
It's not idle in that aspect. Now, the interpreter one's interesting, and we've had discussions. We have you'd say a high demand in CISA 1 comparative to others. So on top of a shortage, we're also probably a little bit of a workload.
Yep.
I don't call it unicorn, but we stand out compared to some of the other districts that may be looking to fill that position as well. So if a candidate's looking at workload or expectations, we may have a little higher compared to some other.
Yeah, and then from an FTE standpoint, we have more than a typical district our size, given our population of students that we service. And that was the reason we broke away from a CISA contract this last year, to have an outside employee, and made it full-time within the district. It's more cost-effective, and it's now our employee that we can build and collaborate with and build connections with families instead of a different contracted employee every year with kids. We just need to find an additional one.
Yeah, I guess I view that a lot similar to this building subs. That's a position we created to service the need and build that consistency. It's just a matter of finding this right candidate for a long-term.
Or anyone to apply as
yeah.
well, yeah.
Well, yeah, and at this point, I mean, we were building a position for that, and the interest that we were anticipating may be there, might not be there. And then we might have to return to how we were
Right.
servicing those needs before, but we were making an attempt to build better consistency for our students. So I don't look at some of these as negatives. I look at some of these as attempts to better the district. So as long as we keep talking about it and keep working the solutions, we'll come across them.
Yeah, but, and I didn't know, there are also 2 special ed aid vacancies. And, you know, for this time of year, that's pretty typical. You know, a lot of times there are positions where, you know, people go into them without long-term plans to stay in those roles. But they're pretty critical relative to the students. They are very critical relative to the student population that they serve. So our particular elementary principals are working hard to fill them. I think we've had one this week that got filled.
So the last position on there, obviously it's special student education development aid. New position, student need, is that a student has come across a new need, or we have a new student with?
We had a new student move into the district that came with a pretty extensive IEP that the team reconvened around, but there will be need for another adult outside of our original staffing plan, given the severity of the case.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Michael
For
Lowe?
the interpreter position, what language or languages are we talking about?
This would be a
Sign language.
sign language.
What sign language?
Yeah, we have a high deaf and hard of hearing population in the district,
Okay.
which is outside the norm for CISA 1.
Very good.
Five D, compensation study update.
Okay, we wanted to bring you up to speed on where we are with our comp study. It's been a couple of months since we've talked about this. If you remember back to earlier in the fall, we outlined a process. I kind of summarized on a monthly basis what we were intending to do. The background that I provided, the front end kind of gives the overview of what our intentions for this study are, and ultimately what we'd like it to help us to do down the road, specifically as we move into 24-25 and hiring season, if you will. The important piece tonight, though, is to draw attention to our next important step, which is focus groups that are going to be conducted in January. So I think it was last week, we put out a, I guess it's not a survey, but we're seeking feedback for people that were interested in participating in the focus groups. We have 4 dates that are identified for focus groups. Those focus groups will be 16 teachers each group. They're set up relative to teaching experience with some on the very low end. I think it was 1 to 6 years, ranging, and then incremental groupings up through those with, significantly high levels of experience in the last group. As we get interest, get people that want to participate, we're going to look, as we said, about at experience levels. We're also going to look at teaching roles. If it's elementary, middle, high, specials, areas outside of the classroom, be it speech paths or school psychs. We want a wide variety of input coming in. And the focus of the focus groups is really seeking input. This is not going to be us engaging in discussion, or debate around what compensation models should look like, but rather it's asking very pointed questions around what's working, what isn't, what kinds of things you value, our teachers value in compensation, in a compensation model. And from there, that will obviously analyze the feedback that we receive, and that will set the stage for the next level of work, which is looking at budgetarily what we can do, what we can afford to do, and then designing a model, looking at what we currently have, possibly making tweaks, possibly making some bigger types of moves, with the idea that as we move forward spring, we'll bring recommendations here for changes to a model.
I guess I'll start on this. So we've heard some public comments in regards to specifically apparently this committee's efforts in this area and attention to this subject. I would say some of them are probably made of ignorance. Arrogance would come to mind on several of those. This is in my first year here, this was a topic in my head, and as I learned the district for the first year, it became readily apparent we needed to start attacking this. And this compensation model, or this compensation study, is a result of that. I don't think I'm the only one that came to that conclusion, because this board doesn't do anything on the voice of one, does it? With unanimous decisions, or majority decisions, I should say. If anybody's been paying attention to this process, they would know the initial plan had multiple phases in it. And the first phase was to seek out what our neighboring districts, comparable districts, would do. We've done that. You've done that. Presented us that information. The second phase was internal. It was internally listening to our employees, seeing what was on their mind, what you've just explained to us. And unfortunately, that takes time. But getting it right takes time. So I appreciate the hard work the district's put into this, continues to put into this, and will push forward as we look to include all voices into the totality of some of the decisions that are going to come out of this. So if there's any, I guess I would leave it for clarifying statement. That's what I have.
I would just, while this work takes time, there's a very I don't want to call it a deadline, but there's a very clear time frame that fits how schools function relative to staffing, and that time around April, May, when we're going to need to be bringing new teachers in for various reasons. So the process is, as you mentioned, begins with learning as much as we can, listening, and then taking action with the goal of attracting and retaining. Like, a lot of this discussion, you know, in the last 10 minutes is about potentially people that we would bring into the district. But an important part of it as well is our current employees relative to their compensation and what that looks like and what that means relative to them staying here. You know, unfortunately, the major driver in all of this is money. If we could do anything we could to make it an extremely attractive plan, we would, but unfortunately, as we all know, there are limitations in that regard. So we have to be very smart with how we proceed. We have to be very smart relative to what we look relative to others, and we'll do that. We'll do that from my end relative to human resources and the people that I interact with, from a business standpoint and from a area standpoint from Dr. Reuter's perspective in terms of the people that he interacts with quite regularly. So it's an exciting time. It's time. You know, we need to do this.
I think for clarification too, on the focus study piece, we've had, over 64, 65 people as of this morning. Teachers have until the end of the day Friday before the break to sign up. We want to make sure that we have focused and balanced the same variables in each of those 4 focus groups. They'll be asked the same questions. To Mr. Nowak's point, it's not an answer Q&A. If you've ever participated in a focus group, if you're asked a question, you're asked to talk. And we're going to record, so we have a transcript, and then we'll do a thematic analysis of each of the focus groups and build out the overall themes across the district as part of our report. The second phase to that then is looking at market analysis. The report from the previous agenda topic shows there's a clear-cut area when you look at market analysis. We have people leaving high-need positions, and there's a lack of people in the field in those positions. That would say that those are areas of compensation that need to increase versus a saturated area. But you can't make those changes mid-year because then it shifts everyone in those given positions. So we want to do this methodically, and it takes time, and do it right, control variables, and have a process versus making decisions that then could hamper the board and the school district 5 years down the road because we can't fund a compensation model, which we're seeing if you pick up a newspaper
So-
in surrounding districts who are closing buildings.
So, and that was a point I was gonna lead into. Through some of our discussions and analysis of surrounding districts, we've seen instances where districts have been quick to pull a lever without the thought of the unintended consequences that it may have. And whether it's a year, 2 years, or 5 years, we're seeing a lot of surrounding districts starting to run into some major problems without that forethought. And I think, once again, while there's a timeline to it, we're focused on the totality of the decision for our tenured staff, for our young current staff, for prospective employees. And that's not an easy conversation, so I appreciate that we're having it.
I'd also like to add that at the end of all of this, when the compensation study is completed, we've committed as a board to have a learning session for us to discuss those restrictions that we have. We're going to put the budget with the compensation model, with payroll, with all of the expenses that we have as a district and why we do the things we do. We've actually had people ask in the public, even teachers, ask, well, why can't you do that? Well, we can explain all of those situations. We'll make it a public meeting and we'll record it and it'll give a reference so people can go look, well, this is why we do what we do. There's a reason behind it. We have a limited resources. We have a budget in the state that controls how much we can raise our tax base, how much we receive from the state. All of that plays into what we're doing. We're trying to be fiscally responsible. We're trying to live within our means. that all has to happen, otherwise we end up like these other districts. But I think that publicly needs to be recognized, and people need to understand where we're coming from and why we do the things we do. And I think that type of a meeting helps to alleviate some of that, the misinformation that's out there, and people not understanding, thinking we're just evil people that don't want to pay teachers, which is the furthest thing from the truth.
And Brittany, correct me if I'm wrong, but 85% of our budget is human, right? That's not just teachers, but that's
Yeah.
80 to 85%.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's lost on anybody either that anytime there's kind of this what if or what's going to happen type of situation either, that those people who are impacted will feel a little stress, will be wondering what's going to happen. But like it's been said, to just pull the lever, give some cash out, not only this year, but once you start increasing salary years further, the next state budget that comes out, I don't want to sit here and cross my fingers and hope that the legislature and the governor will agree as to how much money, extra money we might be able to get, and then close that gap because of that action. Trust me, I think we all probably get it. I know I get it as far as there's these worries, there's these questions, there's these what ifs. But I think we've taken the right approach to this. And granted, it's a long process. But I think in the end, we'll get to a comfortable spot. Hopefully we'll make a large number of people happy, or at least satisfied, and be better in the long run because of the process.
I'll also add that if anybody wants to focus their ire in the proper direction, it would be with DPI and with the state legislator to fix the state funding formula. Districts like ours are getting decimated by that formula, which doesn't work anymore. That no one even wants to look at it. That's where the problem can be solved really simple. I think more of a focus on pay per pupil would make a lot of sense and make it fair for all districts so that you're comparing apples to apples. I don't think the economy is that different across the state that a district should have more money per pupil. We're in the low end of, correct me if I'm wrong, the average price per pupil, whereas we're also on the low end of teacher compensation. Well, those two kind of fit together. If we had the kind of budgets that these other districts had that have been bloated, being a negative tertiary district, we're in a tough situation because we don't get all the money we give the state that comes back to us. It ends up going to other districts, and they have these fat budgets that they can play with. We don't have that. So if you want to be upset with people, talk to DPI, talk to your legislators, and get them to fix the problem, because it's a problem that has been hampering us for a long time.
And I'd refer to the 2023 annual report that we sent out that had a table in there that highlighted some of what you've been talking about.
Yep.
Where certain districts over 5 years received tens of millions of dollars more than we did as comparable districts.
Right.
I think that's an important piece to those focus groups, because again, a lot of the stuff that you were talking about, nobody really knows all those little pieces that go into how much, we can raise the salaries. And so when you have a focus group and you have people obviously there to give their opinions and it's a wish list, and all those things, because now if you're not able to do those things, now it's just, well, I told you what I needed, and now I'm not getting that. So it can be just as frustrating as it can be rewarding. So I think in that focus group, if you kind of make clear all of those things, why, we're at where we're at, so that there is at least some understanding that we are, and that's why this compensation study is so important, because we are trying to move forward and address all of these issues that are here, but there are also restraints that we don't have any control over. And I think making that clear in a focus group, so that if they're not being addressed, it can be just as frustrating as it can be.
I mean, a lot of our assumptions simply start with salary, but for all we know, we might have a good number of people who carry the insurance where they might be okay with their salary, but man, if there's something we could do on the benefit side for health insurance to decrease or increase, whatever it might be, that's where some of that will come out in a focus group. I mean,
Well, and being realistic on what we can and
Yeah.
can't do with those things.
Yeah, I would say I've been singing from the rooftop for a long time about this issue, and I've talked to DPI, I've talked to legislators, and half of them don't know what you're talking about, and the other half don't want to do anything about it. They just ignore the situation. So now I'm coming and asking for help. We need as many people engaged in this as possible. You know, I helped somebody try and run for the DPI superintendent position because we had such a failing DPI. I tried. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's time that we fix the problem. It really is, but we need help.
Yeah, I think focusing that in the right direction instead of at the board would be more productive.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get there, we'll work through it, we'll continue to push through it, and I'm firmly committed, I think the board's firmly committed, and this is the right work for the district. And, on a personal note, I am, to some of Tracy's comments, as these conversations start and that angst builds, that uncertainty occurs, for some of our staff, I'm not immune to that. I've been through that process. I've watched legislative bodies hold my pension in their hands as a bartering chip, so to speak, between city and state. We understand that. We're not ignorant to that thought and that process. We get it. But if you don't ask honest questions and you just let that manifest in more of an attack mode instead of helping us work with this and through this process, and it sounds like we have a lot of people signing up to do that. Hopefully they continue to sign up to do that, understanding it's a listening session. These aren't demands, this isn't a negotiation session. But we take what you're saying seriously, put it against all of the other data, and let's see where we can come out on the far end. So I'm excited for it, as hard as the work is and as some of the angst that it creates in the district does. It's the right work to do. So, anything else?
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate the in-depth conversation on it greatly. So that finishes 5D. 6 unfinished business, we have none. 7 new business, we have none. 8, I'll take a motion.
move to adjourn?
I'll second.
Mr. Pollak with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? See none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are closed at adjourned at 6:17 PM.
can do it.
We're ready? Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:27. Item 2, roll call, Tom Barney.
Here?
And Eric Brown.
Here.
And Michael Loth, I am here. Item 3, agenda revisions and approval.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second?
Motion by Tom Barney, second by Eric Brown. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Item 4, approved minutes, approval of the November 6th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve November 6, 2023 minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion by Eric Brown and second by Tom Barney. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Item 6, consent, review and discuss November vouchers. I know there were a few questions on that, and Brittany Altendorf, please.
I received 5 questions regarding the vouchers that were in the committee packet. The first question was regarding James Imaging Systems. This is our company that we use for our printers and our copy machines. The question was regarding why we purchase printer heads and maintenance cartridges, and why it's not part of our contract. The answer to that is that this printer was an addition to our contract, so after our contract was signed, since we did make this purchase, we have added it to the contract, so it will be part of the maintenance agreement that we currently have, but it was added and missed in the original contract. So moving forward, any maintenance that is needed to that machine, print cartridges, those type of things will be free of charge or in our contract.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next question I received was regarding a subscription to a program called Starfall. This is a program that is used, and I have Jake Miziak here to answer any additional questions regarding the instruction of it. But this is a program that MacArthur uses. It is a subscription for math and reading. It is used from what we understand from kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, ELL, and special ed students. Currently, it is only used at MacArthur. So if there's other additional questions regarding it.
Their website says campuses. One subscription covers all the campuses. Could we not see if all of our elementary schools can benefit from that?
From what I understand, we've purchased it for individuals, so we must have there must be 2 types of
I believe the cost on this one
subscriptions?
was $355,
Okay,
and at the $355 level, it says campuses. That's what I thought I saw.
okay, and we
So
can,
maybe
I
just
will
a
be happy to
follow-up.
look into that. From what we understood when we contacted MacArthur, they purchase it for individual, so maybe for some reason, the individual ones added together equaled the $355.
Oh, I see.
But that could be, I
Okay.
can continue to look into it to see if that can go across to other sites or not.
Is that $355?
$355.
Okay. Just checking.
The next question that I received was regarding True Ray construction paper. The question was, because it is showing up on the voucher report, it is 7 pages long. It needs to show, there is a way that people can put in purchases through something called e-commerce into Skyward. So the teacher goes into e-commerce, they click on a button, it then goes to the website of the company that they want to purchase from. They put their order in there, but then it goes to the principal so they can create a bulk order, but you're seeing like all the individual requests, even though they actually purchase in bulk for each site. And then we have to code it because we have to do school level reporting to the state. We have to code it by grade or subject. So that's why you'll see all the different details, but we do order by bulk, not district-wide, but the sites order in a bulk.
The cost per page didn't seem to indicate that.
That may, the cost per page is based on the color
I was gonna
or
say,
the
is that
size of the
color?
paper.
Okay,
And that's construction paper, not
right, not standard.
regular printing paper. So those were for our elementary schools, the ones that you saw on the voucher. The next question I received was regarding an expense for University of Oregon. That is for a program called SWIS, School-Wide Information Systems. It is a behavioral software, and again, Mr. Miziak might have some more information regarding this. It is a way that our elementaries evaluate behavior.
It's a way for them to track behavior, so it's a major minor type situation where they can code actions that students have so that they can track that longitudinally, so that they can develop plans for students who might be exhibiting behaviors that they would like to correct.
We are currently, if you remember back to June or July of this past year, I did a behavior report with data, and I talked about utilizing Skyward as our management system. Jake's office is currently working with our elementary principals to see what functions that are used in Swiss that has been used in the district outside of Skyward can also be, what's the word I'm looking for, manipulated in Skyward in order to customize it to replicate those pieces. So his office is working with Skyward as well as the elementary principals on behavior codes and how to merge the two so that this is a program may or may not exist in the future. It has other school districts use it as an easier, more efficient way to track behavior data at the elementary level, where you don't have those major violations that you might see at a middle or high school. But at the same time, we want everything in one database system so that if a student starts here in 4K and graduates throughout, we can see behavioral data related to that student, and we're working on aligning behavior codes so that the same interpretation of each code is consistent from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So this is a kind of in-between year with that.
Great, thank you.
And then the final question that I received was regarding payment of $950.32 to it's a marketing firm, which I believe you've looked up, but it is the newspaper that we post our annual meeting notices in, and we have to post two Class 2 notices, one for the budget hearing and one for the annual meeting. We just put both of them in both of the posts. So this was budgeted for, and it might look like a marketing firm, but it is a newspaper.
Okay.
Or it is the firm that owns the
Did
newspaper.
we have to do that again for the special meeting?
Correct.
So it was an extra $950.
I don't believe it's that extensive, because what we have to do for the budget hearing and the annual meeting, you have to put the budget in
Okay.
there. So there's a lot more than
Okay.
just, the second one that we had to put in was just the notice.
Okay,
So I believe the expense would be,
not as bad.
right, it should be coming up in the next, maybe the next voucher report.
Okay. Very good. Any questions, or I'll take a motion?
Motion to approve the consent to payment vouchers as presented and reviewed.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Tom Barney, second by Eric Brown. Any further discussion? Yes, Russ?
Just a clarification, where would I see our legal expenses?
It was in there.
It was in there,
Yeah.
I might have missed it. Is it a line item in there, or can you direct me to a page? that-
Yeah, it's a line, I didn't make a note of it. It seems, I don't know if I'll take a guess at the dollar amount, but I did.
I
did-
I
yeah,
can
did
find it
see
if it's in there, I might have missed it, that's all.
Yeah, you could, I believe it's searchable, and I
We can
believe-
find it.
It's a
Yeah.
searchable PDF.
Yeah, yeah, do
You
a.
can type in the vendor name, and it will find the expenses connected to that, or you can type in the account number, which I'm sure you don't know.
Yeah,
Perfect.
control F
Mhm.
and the last
Yeah.
name
Okay,
of the
thank you.
individual, because I think his last
Mhm.
name, the last name is part of the
Yep.
Vendor name.
company name. Yeah, I'll take you right to it.
Perfect, thank you.
A very quick guy is already doing it.
Look at how fast that new machine works.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
lot better.
Did you find it yet, or?
No, I missed it, so.
Yeah, it's in
Thank
there.
you. I'll find it myself.
So, it was a little more than I expected, but I wasn't gonna ask any questions about it, you know, cause I understood why. All right, any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Okay, and then, we have item 6, reports and updates. We have the November variance report. Brittany,
In front of you today is the November variance report. Normally, in the past, I have not brought the first variance report to committee until January. The reason for that is because we are still receiving grant numbers that are not built into the budget. So we do have carryover from the previous year, or grants that were not fully spent out from all districts across the state. They then take those funds and they redistribute them. So we could be receiving more funds. So I usually don't give the committee first report until I know all the information. One of the areas in there is our library aid. We did receive additional library funds, which is not built into the budget. Other areas is the reading bill is not built into the budget. The nurse grant that we've applied for and received is not built into the budget. Some of these are not built in the budget because I don't know the number, and I don't want to just plug in numbers that are not factual. So the revenue and the expense side are not built in, so both of them will go up equally. One of the other things that is not built into the budget are the current ESSER dollars. They're the remaining ESSER dollars. I will be giving an update on ESSER in January, so where we are at, because the money that we have in our projected budget, we have an Excel spreadsheet that has been presented to the committee in the past. Those are budgeted numbers, and actually the actual numbers are different. So as we are spending, we are updating that spreadsheet. That will come to January. Once that is finalized, those numbers will then be added to the budget in revenue and expenditures. So right now you are seeing the budget that was approved by the board. It will change in January when the board approves any of the changes that are brought forward. So with that said, you might see some items in the variance report that might look odd. Currently, we are spending at a consistent rate as we were in Fund 10 in previous years, about 29%. One of the areas that I did want to talk about was the capital purchases. You can see that we are overspent by $436,000. That's one of the areas that doesn't have a budget in there. The board did approve using ESSER dollars for Kennedy Middle School air conditioning. To be able to move forward with that vendor, we had to create a PO, which is encumbered right now. So you have $375,000 encumbered, not spent, also not budgeted for. Another area that we have corrected since this report was printed is that there is about $60,000 encumbered that should not be encumbered. For some reason, the $29,400 that the board approved for iPads has been entered 3 times. So 2 of those will be removed or have been removed since this report. So you'll see that area go down. Those 2 things together should be your deficit that you see there. Any questions on that? Otherwise, I'll keep going.
You said 60,000?
Well, it's 29,400 times 2.
Okay, I thought I heard 16.
60,000-ish. Special Education Fund, we are spending slightly less in the 23% range to the 26% range last year. You can see that in the area of salaries are higher. Oh, but the budget is higher than last year. That's why the percentage is. So the budget, we're spending at a consistent rate as last year, about the $2.2 million, but because the budget is higher than last year, the percentages look lower. If that makes sense. So we're spending at an equal rate of dollars, but the budget is increased this year than it was compared to last year. Revenue on the bottom of the sheet. Revenue compared to last year in the general fund, We've received about $500,000 left, $530,000, I believe is the number. That is due to two items that we received last year. One of them is the federal funding, the Back to School Supplement Grant. It was $351,000. That is allocated in fund balance. We have not spent those funds. For curriculum and capital projects, one of the reading curriculums we're going through, those funds will be put towards that. And then the other one was $55,000. We claimed in ESSER funds, but it was for previous year expenditures. So you can see that's why the difference of revenue is compared to the previous year at this time. And then finally, the special education revenue. We receive special education fund on certain payments. Our payments come throughout the year on certain times, so you should see most of the time that the payments or the revenue is consistent with special ed as the year goes on. If for some reason we claim at a different time, which we normally claim around the same quarter, we claim in quarters, so you should not see a big variance in special ed revenue throughout the year. That's all I have.
Okay, very good. Any questions? Okay, we can move on then. Item 7, unfinished business, there's none. Item 8, new business, there's none. Item 9, I'll take a motion.
Move adjourn.
I'll second.
Adjourned by Tom Barney, second by Eric Brown. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This motion is adjourned, or this meeting is adjourned at 6:43 PM.
It is 7 o'clock. I'm calling this Germantown School District Board of Education meeting to order. Please stand if you're able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1A, official meeting notification. Dr. Reuter.
Public notice of all meetings has been given by communication of the superintendent's office to the public, to those news media who have requested such notices, and to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Northwest Now, Express News, and West Bend Daily News. Public notice has also been posted in schools throughout the district and on the Germantown School District website.
Thank you. Item B, roll call.
Medved.
Here.
Ewert.
Here.
Barney is here. Loth.
Here.
Pollock.
Here.
Higginbotham.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Item 2, approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Ewert with the motion, Mr. Pollock with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item 3, reports. Item A, administrator update. Dr. Reuter.
Thank you. Just a few things to highlight as we finalize our last week before staff and students go into a winter break. This evening, and I believe Mr. Ewert will speak to this during our personnel committee, we discussed our teacher compensation study that's taking place. We've had a lot of teachers show interest. I think we're over at 65 as of this morning have submitted to Mr. Noack and I an application to be a part of those focus groups, but I'll let Mr. Ewert speak more to that in the personnel committee. A couple things on the sports forefront as we're in the winter sports season. Just last week, Miss Unerdal, our athletics and activities director, took 4 student athletes, and one of them is here tonight as our student representative, to the board to the WIA Sportsmanship Summit in Stevens Point, where they participated in collaborating with other student athletes across the state, discussing leadership in sports and being role models as well as representatives of the school district. It's a great honor to be a part of that. We thank Miss Unerdal for engaging our student athletes in that. Continuing along that theme, this Friday at halftime of the boys basketball game, the GHS boys basketball game, our 3-time state championship boys basketball team from 2012, 13, 14, who set a state record for consecutive wins, as well as runner-up in 2015. They will be honored at halftime, so that should be a great community event. It's been publicized. We'll continue to publicize it this week. Ms. Unerdal is expecting a huge turnout from the community, past and present student athletes. A big thank you to all of our GSD music staff. Last week, the week before, even this week, there's been concerts across the district at all different grade levels. This Thursday night at the PAC, I encourage everyone that can make it to come to our high school choir concert. It's always a great show, and it's a great way to get into the winter season. And then there's continued concerts because we have so many performers after the winter break as well. So thank you to our GSD music staff. That takes a lot of time beyond the work day to coordinate and put that together, and everyone that shows up. And then, like I said, this is the last week of school for students, teaching staff, and in-building support staff. Winter break will start at the end of the school days on Friday, and we will resume back to school on Tuesday, January 2nd. So happy holidays to everyone, and thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, student representative report. Welcome.
Amy Bell, December shines with a focus on empathy. The school united for a heartwarming toy drive. The upcoming Bellfest promises to bring our community together with a special emphasis on empathy before winter break. In the classroom, engaging activities keep students engaged as they approaching the holidays. Highlights this season, the first grade music concert on December 14th showcased the incredible progress and hard work of the talented students, providing a delightful experience for families to cherish. Over at County Line, November and December has been buzzing with excitement. Spirit Days painted the school with vibrant energy, setting the stage for the upcoming holiday break. The PTA orchestrated a variety of events from Popcorn Fridays to collaborating with the Buckses for a school give back. The third graders enjoyed a fun trip to First Stage, while the first graders dazzled with delight during their concert, showcasing their dedication. This week, the DI teams are running a candy cane sales, and the Comets are counting down the days to winter break eagerly and anticipating a well-deserved rest. At MacArthur, the collective hard work, dedication, and teamwork of the students, teachers, and staff had yielded remarkable results, earning them a 4-star rating, signifying that they are exceeding expectations. This achievement is a source of pride for the entire Eagle community. Amongst the focus on learning, the Eagles continue to make school a joyful and positive place. December has been filled with diverse activities from movie nights to school concerts to silent auctions to spelling bees. They even had students from higher grade levels join them to spread the joy of caroling. As they close out 2023, they're embracing the spirit of positivity with one last School Spirit Week. At Rockfield, the spirit of learning continues alongside festive celebrations during this holiday season. From dress-up days to joyful caroling, students are immersed in a variety of engaging activities. The PTA has organized events for both students and families in December, including a successful fundraiser called Skate and Donate. This event provided an opportunity to contribute to the school while enjoying a roller skating with friends and family. This month's theme is empathy, emphasizing the importance of understanding and connecting with others' feelings. Practicing empathy is a valuable skill that helps build strong and meaningful relationships. At Kennedy, the spirit of giving back is alive and well, with various activities aimed to support local groups and communities. In the first quarter alone, multiple KMS teams have undertaken commendable efforts to make a positive impact. Miss Quigley's class led the way by collecting used shoes for a sneaker recycling program and gathering toys for our kids' closets. The KMS Key Club remarkable contributions included 582 items for the St. Gabe's and Boniface Food Pantry, as well as a toy and house drive. FBLA orchestrated a successful Socktoberfest, collecting 209 pairs of socks for the Hope House, and they are currently running a March of Dimes campaign. The Student Council organized a KMS popcorn sales for the season of giving. The collective dedication of students, staff, and the families at KMS reflect a strong commitment to helping others. Notably, they also enjoyed an awesome Best Buddies movie night and celebrated 2 outstanding spelling bee winners heading off to regionals. They're finishing off with one fun spirit week as they eagerly await the holiday break. The vibrant buzz of activities, sports, and learning continues to fill the halls at the Germantown High School. Winter sports are in full swing, with GHS clubs, meetings, and events taking place as well. The Pep Band has added new songs to their song list and showcased their talents at the home basketball games. Teachers are diligently covering their last few units before winter break, knowing that students have limited time upon returning in January before semester exams. Adding to the excitement, the Student Council has kicked off their Winter Wish Week, a cherished tradition featuring spirit days, festive music, and the joy of sharing a little treat amongst friends. This delightful week helps maintain high spirits as everyone eagerly approaches the holiday break, making it a wonderful way to conclude the 2023 and usher into the well-deserved break. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always great to get the updates and hear about all the buzz of activity that goes on in our schools. It's amazing when you drive around, even this time of the day, you can see the amount of activities that are going around in our buildings. Any comments, questions?
I would just add to congratulate Abby. She's recently signed a letter of intent for a scholarship to the University of Wyoming for swim. So not only is she our student representative, represents us at the WIA Sports Summit, great athlete, great student, but she's also going on to really big things. So congratulations to Abby.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job. Appreciate
Thank
it. Moving on to item 4, citizen comments. I have not seen the sheet. No one has signed up. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 5, consent agenda. Approval of the November 20th, 2023 meeting minutes. Also, approval of teacher resignations. Mr. Nowak, you want to go through those?
Sure. We have one resignation to bring forward tonight. That is for Alyssa Schneider, submitted her letter of resignation November 20th. Alyssa was hired in August of 2013 as a speech and language pathologist in the Germantown School District.
Okay, thank you. Item C, approval of teacher contracts. Mr. Noah?
Thank you. We have two contracts to bring forward, both limited term contracts. Paige, I believe it's Connie, is a speech path will be a speech path at County Line Elementary. Paige is being recommended as a result of her resignation. This is a 1.0 FTE 81-day limited term contract at $24,086. And Reagan Christ is at Kennedy Middle School, an 8th grade language arts teacher. She's being recommended again as a result of a teacher resignation. This is a 1.0 93-day contract for $19,578.
Thank you. And finally, approval of donations. Dr. Rutter?
Yep, this evening we have 3 donations. The first from Illing Company, donation of rain barrels to the GHS Greenhouse Project. From Basu Joshi Yair Oil Company Incorporated, $1,000 towards the activities at Rockfield, which include 4K and 2nd grade classes. And Badgerland Striders Running Club donated $350 to our girls cross-country team at the high school.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
Mr. Browning with the motion, Mr. Ewert with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Item 6, building and grounds. Mr. Pollak.
Yes, thank you. We, Buildings and Grounds met earlier this evening. Mr. Lord provided us a work order report, which should be basically a foundation for us moving forward to highlight all of the different activities and work efforts that have been done within the GSD. The report today provided us an idea. It's 270, I think, items long as far as what he and his team and others have done between roughly October and earlier this week. He also led a project recap past and future, which provided us an update on larger projects, bigger items that he and his team had completed and what some of the work that's upcoming also entails. So things like some of the work for the high school courtyard project coming up over the winter break. And then lastly, I also provided an outdoor facilities meeting report to summarize towards the end of November. Dr. Reuter, Sarah Unerdl, myself, and a number of GHS outdoor coaches and also community members of local organizations got together, had a town hall style meeting in which we were able to share a number of thoughts, ideas, wish list items, reality checks to some degree as far as of what that group might do moving forward as a community effort. And then lastly, thank you to the Rockfield PTA. We approved a motion to add some playground equipment at the school because of a generous donation from the PTA. That is it.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Okay, moving on to item 7, Teaching and Learning Committee. Mr. Ewert.
Teaching and Learning Committee met earlier this evening. I'll give you the cliff notes of that meeting. We heard reports on 2 main subjects. One, our reading pilot. It's update number 4 that we received. It's continued in an extended format. We are waiting on the state to provide its recommended resources or a list of recommended resources. We're confident some that we are piloting, or if not all, will be on that list, but we're not looking to purchase a curriculum until we know that for sure. It's the good I say that would come out of that right now is we've had an extended look, so we've seen it in multiple phases now, which helps the teachers form opinions and provide us with their input, along with we will be looking forward to parental and student input. We saw a a matrix that's being submitted that was not only built with the administration's help, but I shouldn't say with the administration's help, by the administration, but with the help of the staff and input on what criteria that should look like. These particular pilots being rated on. So we're looking for that data to come back once we get through that section. It looks like January 30th vendors have potentially, that's the stop dead date. So we're hoping to know more than that. I will add with that, there should be some state funds, and we've talked about it in previous meetings, but I just remind everyone there'll be some state funds to help with that transition, so the timing is in our favor. I think we're ahead of the curve compared to some of the other districts that are taking up this cause post some of the state announcements. So I'm excited as that continues forward with inputs on all, I would say, 4 major fronts. Parents, teachers, students, and our directors in finance, so it helps. Our second was a KMS, this is just a report and update. KMS is reviewing a potential schedule change for that building. That was brought forward from, and kind of sounds like it originated from staff regarding concerns and effectiveness of the current schedule. Through the principal, and then in partnership with teaching and learning, they're going to continue to review what may or may not be best time usage throughout the day there. So we should see some more information coming forward on that. We had no motions or decisions made, just reports to keep the board abreast or the committee abreast of the goings on for teaching and learning.
Okay, any comments, questions?
I think it's important to point out, they're not looking at changing the KMS start and end times. It is the individual blocks within the school day.
Yes, yeah, and I believe they, in the packet, they had their current, so it won't be a different start-stop time for it. It's gonna be the time management within the current hours given.
Good point.
It'll be, and thank you for that, because that's, and when the discussion arose, I'm like, we're not going down this road. But, yeah, I think it's gonna be for the betterment of our students in that building along with our staff. So, interesting as that progresses, so thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll keep it with Mr. Ewert for item 8, Personnel Committee.
Personnel Committee met earlier this evening. I will race through items A, B, and C. A being teacher resignations, which was discussed in the consent agenda. B, teacher contracts, also discussed there. Item C was our general staffing update, which we were provided. We continue to see a couple positions due to, I don't know if it's best to say if it's market demand and situational issues that stay open, but we've continued to adapt and try to present creative solutions to that. So we'll continue to monitor that. That report's given to us to keep us abreast of the ever-changing staffing situations throughout the district. So we appreciate that report. And we'll move on to item D, compensation study update. So the last time I presented the board on this, we had finished, administration had finished the first portion of that, which was data information gathering of comparable districts in the surrounding areas. Key components there, comparable districts in the immediate surrounding areas. And we've looking to move into phase 2 of that, which is going to be listening sessions with our own employees, which is obviously a key portion to compensation. It sounds like we have over 64, I believe, currently signed up. And that is open through, and I forget what.
4 o'clock Friday.
4 o'clock Friday, so there could be more. I encourage anyone who is interested in our employment and certified staff to sign up. Make yourself available. That is a great place to be heard. Understand that it's a true listening session, a focus group. You'll be asked some questions, it sounds like, and your responses will be greatly, it's probably not a space for debate or negotiations, but simply to provide your input, so we can, the administration can bring us back that data, and we can plug it in with the other matrix involved in this compensation study. This is some important work the district's doing, and we've went to pretty lengthy discussion at the committee on that, so if you'd like to see that, I won't rehash every comment that was made there, but I would recommend looking at it, and you can understand as a board how serious we take this. I think that's important to listen to the words and pay attention to our actual actions around that, and understand we are serious in moving the district forward with a totality of the compensation that's provided for our staff. I will leave that there. Please review that meeting for that full discussion. That is all I have.
Okay, I'll just add to the last part about the compensation study. The board will be in the future, after that compensation study is completed, be doing a workshop, because I think there's a lot that needs to be explained about compensation across the district and why we're in the position that we're in. The budget, the state funding formula, a lot of things factor into why we make the decisions that we make. And I think it's important that we have a public record that people can look at and see exactly why things are done the way that they're done. So that'll be coming as well. Thank you.
Just a work session is open to the public.
It'll be open to the
Citizen
public,
members.
absolutely. We'll have discussions open, and it'll be recorded so we can refer to people that have those questions later on after that meeting to review that tape, and you can learn more, understand more. There's a lot to it, and it will take a couple of hours to go through the complete understanding of how budgets work, how the state funding formula works, how our tax base can be increased or decreased. All of that is a lot of things that takes a long time to understand, and most people don't have the beginning clue, including some of our legislators, unfortunately. So I think getting that information out there in a clear, concise way is going to be very important to helping us down the road. And hopefully getting the state to fix the state funding formula, because that would help us in a big way. Anyone else?
I guess I'll just add one thing about the architecture of the listening sessions that they'll be conducting. So it was intentionally, we are going to cross-section buildings, staff longevity, so new staff, old staff, staff in between, specialties, which is the teaching disciplines, whatever you want to refer to it, so to get a totality of a voice of our members and certified staff, which I think is key to that discussion.
Very good.
There, thank you.
All right, anyone else? One last time. Let's go.
Sorry.
All right. Item 9, Finance Committee, Mr. Loth.
Yes, the Finance Committee met earlier this evening. We approved vouchers. Brittany answered a few questions for the committee. Brittany also went through her variance report. She mentioned that it's not 100% complete this month, and she doesn't always bring it to us this month for that reason. But anyway, she said we could be receiving more grant funds, not yet built into the budget. There are some remaining ESSER dollars, and changes will come in January. And that's all we got.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, new business. Item A, discussion and action regarding certified teacher staff wage increase for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Mr. Nowak.
Thank you. The administration supports a pay rate increase for certified teaching staff in an amount equal to 4.5%. Increases would be effective July 1, 2023, applied to the 23-24 fiscal year. The attached document notes increased distribution amounts based on the 22-23 teacher base salary amounts. Negotiations for 23-24 school year began in February of 2023 with communication between the Germantown School District Administration and the Germantown Education Association. GSD administration asked to start the negotiation process in February 2023, and the GEA agreed to meet for the first time with formal negotiations in the fall of 2023, with meetings held on Monday, October 2nd, 2023, and Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. As part of those discussions, we reached a point of impasse. The final offer is noted below. and I will outline its parameters. Final offer from the Germantown Board of Education is as follows. 1, an increase of 4.5% derived from base salary amount for a total of $736,660.09. Distribution will occur in a tiered manner as illustrated in the chart below. Increases will be distributed to the 22-23 base salary, except for salaries at or above $90,000, which will be a base addition of $400, a stipend amount of $1,000. The breakdown of the tiers are below. Those $40,000 to $59,999 will receive $3,764 added to base. Those $60,000 to $74,999 would receive $3,000 added to base. Those $75,000 to $89,999, $2,500 added to base, up to $90,000. Any portion over $90,000 will be done as one-time stipend. Those at $90,000 and above receive a $400 base increase and receive a $1,000 stipend payment to be paid June 30th of 2024. The attached document proposal lists what these proposed increases would mean for each Germantown School District teacher receiving an increase in 23-24 school year. Increase amounts are based on 1.0 FTE with proration for part-time teacher contracts. Adjustments will be made in situations where teachers in one salary tier would pass teachers in subsequent tiers in overall salary for 23-24. And finally, the agreement for 23-24 is for 23-24. In order to receive stipend pay, an eligible certified teacher will need to fulfill their entire 23-24 contract. We ask you to support the recommendation as noted.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve a 4.5% pay rate increase to the outline distribution for certified teaching staff as presented for the 23-24 fiscal year effective July 1st, 2023.
I'll second.
Ms. Higginbotham with the second, Mr. Ebert with the motion. Any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Barney?
My question really references our next agenda item, which talks about 90,000 and above, but 90,000 and above is included in this agenda item. So I just want to make sure if we approve this, that we're not approving something twice for the same group of employees. You understand my question?
Yep, the pools of money are different. The pool of money here is related to base salary. The second agenda item that you're referencing, the next one, is related to stipend money, which is not derived from the base.
Yeah, we can't. So the 4.5% is a negotiated rate. The stipend amount is non-negotiable by law. We can't negotiate that.
We had to separate the two.
So we have to
basically.
separate it, and it has
Okay.
to be in two motions.
It's
That's a-
included as it's part of the totality of the process.
Right. I just
I
wanted
get it,
clarity
I get it.
because our motion is as presented. And part of what was presented was the stipend and the increase for 90,000 and above, which is covered in our next agenda item.
The 400 for 90 and above is part of the 4.5%. The 1,000 isn't.
Is not.
So-
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add that I think administration can back me up on this. The reason we went with the tiered formula was to kind of scrunch the pay salary for the teachers. We had every year we were given a percentage, and that gap kept widening. So we're trying to bring that together a little bit and help out the lower end and bring them up. Is kind of the goal behind this.
Yep, and it is a one-year negotiation. It is not, this isn't this is 1 year, this is for this current year, so that, I think the part of the negotiation process and those that were on the team was to do exactly what you said, Mr. Medved, to bring the bottom up, and that coupled with the work we're doing through the compensation studies, we know we have a large gap when it comes to compensation for our teaching staff.
That was the other part of it, looking at what other districts are doing, and going forward, there can be pay increases, adjustments based on the comp study as well. So, all right. Any further questions, comments?
I just, being part of the negotiating team for the first time, I did not participate in the first year of my position on this board, and I would say I demanded it strongly to be involved in it this time around, and I'll say it as I've been consistent on this message, the low end of our salary isn't getting the job done. So I viewed this tiered method as a manner and fully support it, and to really aggressively attack that, as we know what some of this compensation study is going to show. So we have to take a first step, and to wait till the completion of the compensation study to do that, I don't think was fair to the employees. So I think this is a way to attack that sooner in a financially responsible way to the district. We've heard some staff are very positive about this. Some are not, and I can understand that. But I think as a totality for the district, I think this is a good contract. And I think, as Mr. Reuter said, this is a 1 year scenario. This is not the framework for every year going forward. I've heard multiple narratives in regards to that. But we need to deal in fact and truth. And this is one of those times where we have to be clear. This is an aggressive attack at the low end to compensate these teachers. And 40 grand's not getting it done. So how do we do that while maintaining a balanced budget, while not asking our constituents for a referendum, operational referendum, or operating in a deficit? We get creative, and this is how it comes out. So I appreciate the support this has received. Hopefully it continues to receive it as we move forward with the vote here. It's been a long process, interesting process, sitting on that side of the table. I won't speak to the timeline. I think there were some narratives in this community in regards to timelines and who was or wasn't at fault. I don't know if it's crystal clear picture, but I know when we initiated this discussion, and I know when it ended. And unfortunately, it held up getting this process done. So here we are. Hopefully, we can get it through tonight, get it approved, and get our staff moving in a better financial direction. Thank you.
To your point, I'll just add that, we're at a 4.5% increase across the district. When I started this 10 years ago, I didn't think we'd ever see a 4.5% increase. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't think it would be sustainable. Unfortunately, other districts are going above that, and they're killing their budgets. They're running deficits. They're closing schools. They're doing a lot of things. I know it's never enough, and I agree with what Mr. Ewert is saying. It'd be great to pay our teachers more. We have a lot of really good teachers, and we're doing what we can. And again, I'll go back to the whole state funding formula, our actual budget, the amount of money that we have. We can't spend more than we get, and our budget does not keep up with inflation, as well as people wanting us to keep up with inflation. We can't pay our teachers at the rate of inflation if we don't have the money. That's the problem we're running into. So thank everyone for their comments, and if anyone has anything else they'd like to add? Mr. Lowe.
Just wondering, Mike, if you are prepared to answer the question. We have a progressive group that stated that the starting pay for teachers was the same for the last 10 years. Do you know what it was in 2013? I mean, I was on the board then, but I can't say I kept notes. According to this, it looks like starting pay today is 40,000.
40.
It wasn't 40 10 years ago. I know that.
That changed to 40. It was, I believe, in the 2015-16 school year. So it's been 40 for a significant number of years. Prior to that, it was, I believe, in the 38,000 range.
Okay, so it was less than
It was less than
this.
this, but we have been at 40, over the course of, since 2015, 16.
Okay.
So significant amount of time.
Okay, so we've just bumped it, well, we haven't bumped it yet, but it looks like we may bump it this evening.
Well, no, we won't bump it this evening. That would be something that would potentially result via the compensation study.
Okay,
If we have new teachers today who signed a contract, an initial regular contract for 40,000, that is their amount for this year,
Okay.
and they're not subject to receive the increase.
all right.
They're
Sounds good.
eligible to receive the increase.
And one of the things we talked about is we need to get out of the situation where that base salary is stagnant. There needs to be some kind of an inflationary increase built into it. So the top end goes up, the bottom end goes up, but it stays within that range. That's what we're talking about. So once the compensation study is done, we'll be looking more into that and how we can fix those issues so that doesn't continue.
Yeah. I think part of the architecture of this was to ensure nobody leapfrogged anybody. You can see, and you'll see some breakdowns in here, where the adjustment is a little different than what's, and it explains it in the packet, to make sure nobody leapfrogs anyone. And when we look at, we know when the compensation study comes out, and if we look at raising starting pay with that, we're gonna be looking at that again, right, to make sure nobody leapfrogs. The amount of work that went into this, in the education that went on behind looking at what other districts did, looking at what other districts have done. We've heard horror stories from decisions made on these contracts. Anything from the following year, slashing benefits because now they have to come up with the money to pay for their 6, 7, 8%, $75,000 cap, 5-year caps, freezes, pay freezes, you can't go above it. And I don't think anybody has the stomach for that type of action on this board for our staff. I don't think those types of things would be appropriate, but if we don't structure these things intelligently and factually, looking 5 years, right? We could end up like that. The decisions could lead to that. So I understand there's some ear on probably the top end of this contract. Understand the district's going to be healthy financially. We're going to be healthy from a staffing point of view, and this is one of the paths to that.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Moving on to item B, discussion and action regarding certified teaching staff stipend pay for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Mr. Noah.
Thank you, and this is in connection to the previous agenda item. The administration supports a one-time $1,000 stipend payment for certified teaching staff with salaries over $90,000 a year. The agreement is for the 2023-2024 school year. To receive stipend pay, an eligible certified staff member must fulfill their entire 2023-24 teaching contract. Payment will occur on June 30th, 2024. To summarize, the final offer from the Germantown Board of Education is as follows. An increase of 4.5% was derived from base salary amount for a total of $736,660.09 for certified teaching staff. Distribution will occur in a tiered manner, as previously noted, from the 2022-2023 base salary, except for salaries at or above $90,000, which will be a base addition of $400 and a stipend amount of $1,000. That is summarized in the table below. We would ask for the recommendation as noted.
Okay. As Mr. Barney noted earlier, the stipend is separate from the 4.5 negotiated amount because legally you can't negotiate a stipend and a percentage, so we had to separate it out. So this is over and above the 4.5% negotiated contract. I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve a one-time $1,000 stipend payment for certified teaching staff with a salary over $90,000 as presented for the 23-24 fiscal year effective July 1st, 2023. Once $90,000 is reached in negotiated wage increase, any portion over the $90,000 will be a one-time stipend.
Second. Mr. Ewert with the motion, Mr. Barney with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Moving on to item C, discussion and action regarding final 2023-2024 professional technical support staff and administrative wage increase. Mr. Nowak.
Thank you. Administration is seeking a pay increase for professional technical support staff and administrator groups, excluding the district administrator, in an amount equal to 4.5% over the individual's 2022-23 wage. This would be effective July 1, 2023, applied to the 2023-2024 fiscal year. We ask for the recommendation as noted.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a 4.5% pay rate increase for professional technical support staff and administration, excluding the district administrator, as presented for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, effective July 1st, 2023.
I'll second.
Mr. Pollock with the second, Mr. Ewer with the second, Mr. Pollock with the motion. Any discussion?
I have some.
Okay.
I think it's important to note in regards to the timeline with our previous topics, A and B, there's some narrative in this community once again in regards to holding up these increases in pay rates to our non-certified staff. And I think fundamentally they are, while not negotiable, they're not negotiated with in that regards. They do directly correlate to what our certified staff receive, and until we know what that final number looks like, it's hard to make or come forward with a recommendation for this group of employees. I think for us to have come forward, if we would have come forward earlier with this action, and unfortunately I feel for these employees as far as the timeline and how it played out, but to come forward with a number that wouldn't have been similar or the same as what certified staff is, you'd be degrading their service to our district. Unfortunately, due to the length of negotiations that took place, and I believe it speaks to the open-mindedness that was entered into those negotiations, meaning we didn't have a final number set in our head. We didn't want to set a number for this set of staff that wouldn't mirror our certified staff. My opinion.
Okay. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Moving on to item D, discussion and action to approve 2024-2025 school year calendar. Mr. Nowak.
Thank you. The calendar team met on multiple occasions. The group is listed below. It included representation from high school, middle school, and elementary sites. The calendar, as I've done this a number of years, it's sort of interesting. What we're starting to find in the areas that our calendars are starting to look more and more similar, as we note that you have to start after September 1st, or September 1st is the starting point. And then when you consider that you don't want to create a schedule that goes deep into June, when you start to do the minutes, everything sort of squeezes in, and you're somewhat limited relative to the schedule that you create, which is okay. The calendar that we've created for this year, I note some highlights. I'll go through those. It includes a September 3rd start date, which is right after the Labor Day break. It's on that Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Tuesday start. It includes a June 11th finish, which is consistent with others. as we've done in the past, which many other districts do, the 24-25 school year calendar includes a day off prior to Thanksgiving. That's something that we've heard repeatedly from our teachers and staff that they appreciate relative to all the preparations that take place on that day. Our winter break for the 24-25 school year includes classes ending on December 20th and resuming on January 2nd. January 2nd of 2024, 25, I lose track. I believe is a Thursday, so we're Thursday, Friday of that week. The proposed 24-25 school year includes a spring break that has classes ending on the 24th of March and resuming on March 31st. That's consistent, definitely consistent with other districts in that there's, depending on where the Easter break falls, we try to utilize that last full week in March for the spring break.
All CISA 1 districts have agreed upon that moving forward as well, that last full week of March, regardless of where Easter falls, will be spring break, so that it's consistent in the region. So if you live in you live in Menominee Falls and you're a teacher here, you're not off 1 week and your kids are off another week, so that there's some consistency in the region.
And for the record, that dominates superintendent meeting time.
It's the biggest waste of time. But we came to an agreement, so.
This calendar also includes, that's a few weeks down the road from that, a spring holiday of April 17th, with holiday on April 17th, classes resuming on the 22nd. It also includes staff days off on May 23rd and May 26th in observance of Memorial Day. And I would note that that May 23rd day on this calendar is noted as a potential snow makeup. We've had to do that in the past, and so we wanted to note it here so that people were aware. In regard to that, and I haven't put this in this type of background before, but as we look at DPI instructional minutes, we always try to build cushion. Every district does that. This particular calendar, because there's differences between high school, middle school, and elementary, when we calculate out the minutes, this particular calendar gives 3 days of flexibility at the high school, the middle school, and 4 days of flexibility at the elementary level. The other thing that I didn't note in the bullets is that this particular calendar includes 2 work days at the elementary level, which was something that elementary teachers wanted. So with the teachers that were took part in the process, they were very observant as to when those occurred, and we feel comfortable with where we're at in that regard. We'd ask that you approve the calendar as recommended.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt as presented the proposed 2024-2025 school year calendar.
Second.
Mr. Barney with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in, oh, I'm sorry.
You thought you'd do it. No, in regards to what the schedule looks like, I just want to make a comment in as far as the input being taken from and the doors being open to allow that to occur from the staff on up shows, and I think we've talked about it a lot tonight, from our pilot program compensation study, and here's another example where this administration is looking for input across the district and to build that effective path lane for some upwards leadership from our staff in through, and we hear it here at the board. So thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you, calendar committee. I know how much work that is. I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85 1C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of an employee, district administrator performance review, and administrative contracts.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Pollock with the motion, Mr. Ewer with the second. Roll call, please.
Medved,
Yes.
Ewert,
Yes.
myself, yes. Loth,
Yes.
Pollock,
Yes.
Higginbotham,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
We are in closed session at 7:50. Thank you all for coming. Please drive home safely.
Can I have some of that?